Part 46. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 453. The crisis is not far away. Can we make up for the time? After the big mosquito looked up for a moment, a complex light flashed in his compound eyes. But not long after, the light disappeared and he crawled down again. If someone can detect a mysterious power in the assembly hall at this moment, then they can see that in the assembly hall at this moment, the body of the big mosquito is slowly adjusting, and finally it has become unstable after the mutation. Stability, body energy, stability, and skeletal muscles have become stronger and stronger, reaching their peak. He is preparing for war. As a combat life form, Jia Yan can already feel that the real battle on the gray-yellow star is in the not-too-distant future. Kill. Don't be afraid of this Earth city. They are just small forces in a small place under the control of our number 5 city. Wipe them all out. It can't work anymore. Jin Mo is close to the forest area, and the whistling sounds of flying are constantly ringing. Huge figures, as fast as lightning, rolled back and forth on the edge of the forest. However, their postures at this moment did not look carefree, but instead looked extremely embarrassed. Because behind these figures are several even larger figures. One by one, they used their brainwave power, flying up like lightning and thunder, and attacked the escaping aircraft in front of them. Although the aircraft are basically faster than the monsters behind them, in the battlefield where the enemy and ourselves are intertwined, these aircraft are like pieces of paper that can be torn with a poke. If the monsters attack even slightly, they will be destroyed. Destroy. That's right, these aircraft are the vigilante fighting team from City Number 5. How could they have faced so many powerful monsters in previous battles? So at this moment, these police officers who used to think highly of themselves, who had always thought that they were the top combat power in the warring countries, have now become like a joke, being brutally beaten by those powerful monsters in the sky. He tore up his own dignity. Their castrated version of the aircraft has weak protection. A single blow from those monsters will result in the destruction of the ship and the death of everyone. And their attack weapons are also castrated versions, even if they are able to attack the incoming monsters. It causes harm, but cannot play a decisive role. Bo. A fiery red light shot at a huge swordfish-like monster. This fish-like life form had a pair of wings that could fly into the sky. At this moment, it was shot by the red light and let out a thundering roar. After being injured, the swordfish monster became more ferocious. The nose on the front of his body was like a sharp sword, and he was stabbing at the sheriff's aircraft that was attacking him. Although the opponent was fast enough, after all, it was operated by some domineering sheriff, and it was too late. In response, he was hit hard by the swordfish's nose. Boom! The aircraft made a loud explosion, and the entire police officers in the aircraft were completely burned by the flames and turned into charred corpses. No way! Run away! There were more than 50 sheriff's aircraft in total. After one contact, more than 10 were destroyed. The remaining aircraft were all panicked. These sheriffs, who had no actual combat experience at all, had been fighting in the past. In the battle with the wind, which one of them didn't attack those small forces, and wipe them out and disperse them with no effort at all. But now the army was dispatched to destroy the so-called Earth City. Unexpectedly, they were blocked by the opponent just as they reached the edge of the forest. Even the other party is not at all like the small forces we encountered before. Once attacked, it is their side that will collapse. A sheriff's aircraft was retreating to the rear at this time. The commander inside had made a plan. Those extremely powerful monsters on the other side were definitely not something that one of their aircraft could defeat. His plan was to retreat temporarily. If you gain an advantage here and return to join the battle, you must know that the speed of their aircraft is extremely fast. When the time comes, there will be nothing to say about fighting with the wind. This way, you can avoid danger. Wouldn't it kill two birds with one stone? Be careful, there is a life-energy reaction behind you. An early police officer on the operating table suddenly changed his face and issued a warning. But it's too late. A bear-like monster with a length of 256 meters suddenly jumped up from a tall gray-yellow tree and arrived in front of the aircraft in a flash. He turned one of his meaty hands into a fist and punched out towards the front of the aircraft. The bear punches randomly. A punch came out, and the aircraft suddenly trembled. After that, there was a rattling noise, and after a huge roar, there was a terrifying roar inside, and the whole thing exploded. Compared with Jia Yan, a monster who doesn't know much about alien civilization, these powerful people in the Golden Desert now have a more thorough understanding of the creations of alien civilization, so they are more capable of fighting against the sheriff's aircraft at this moment. When attacking, he was able to pinpoint the key points of their defense. The effect of one blow was much more powerful than that of Jia Yan before. These monsters were sent by Daifuni to attack the strong men of the former Golden Desert who intercepted the aircraft in City 5. Each of them was definitely not as powerful as Jia Yan, who had lost his energy before. Even because they knew the weaknesses of the sheriff's aircraft, and the top 100 strong men participating in the battle, there were more than 40 in total, so they actually suppressed the sheriff's team at this moment. Boom boom boom. A bearded man who looked like an Ostaman was carrying an extremely terrifying 7-8 meter long cannon. He relied on his personal strength to carry this cannon that should have been mounted on a chariot. Launching attacks fiercely. One of the aircraft in the sky was caught off guard and was hit by a giant cannon. Although its defense was still acceptable, it was not shot down directly. However, another frog-like life form bowed and jumped from the ground. Get up, come to this low-flying sheriff's aircraft, and spit out the pink tongue like lightning and thunder. Phew. The hole made by the giant cannon in the aircraft was pierced again by the giant frog's tongue, and it actually started to tremble unsteadily. The giant frog retracted its tongue and landed on the ground. Although the sheriff's aircraft did not explode, it swayed unsteadily and smashed down the trees. The weaker fighting life forms on the side swarmed up with cheers. How could the strong men of the Golden Desert ever have such a happy battle with the police officer of an official city? In the past, even though they had the fighting power to defeat the sheriff, they could only retreat every time because of the opponent's identity, which made them fearful of those sheriffs whose fighting power was not actually strong. But when the real battle started, I realized that the opponent's strength was not invincible. Moreover, with so many powerful people from the Golden Desert gathered together, the combat effectiveness of their cooperation is not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 is definitely greater than 2. The strong men of the Golden Desert who used to fight alone now find out how exciting it is to have a powerful companion. Sometimes they were unable to defend themselves, which was a huge danger in the past, but now they have a similarly powerful companion. Powerful teammates will help you resolve attacks in an instant, and every teammate has rich combat experience. Each of them can be called a godlike teammate instead of a pig-like teammate. With so many favorable opportunities at the right time and place, how could they lose? Boom boom boom. The war is still going on. Not only are these strong men subdued by Earth City feeling like they are surrounded by godlike teammates, but now this emotion seems to be happening throughout Earth City. These life forms found that they were surrounded by teammates who could stand alone. Even Daphne found that as long as her orders were issued, as long as she arranged the matters clearly, almost every one of them could be well executed. The reason, what she can think of, is that these powerful forces and ordinary individuals conquered by Earth City were almost all existences who struggled to survive in the past. In order to survive, they had to make themselves efficient in the past, and not only in actions. The ability is strong, even the mind cannot be too bad. However, in the past, the loose structure of each force and the short-sightedness made those strong individuals and individuals not so outstanding in combat effectiveness and organizational planning capabilities. Now they have gathered here in Earth City, with Defuni as an extremely efficient and capable leader. Brain post. Using their abilities almost to the limit, they can naturally play extraordinary roles. Facing such a great situation, Defuni's thoughts became clearer. She feels that her idea will definitely succeed. It would be a pity for these subordinates to give up. They must not give up. These are all godlike teammates, what great subordinates. The beautiful lady was looking at the meeting hall with the big mosquito at this time. She felt a little relieved in her doubts. In fact, speaking of good teammates, wouldn't the big mosquito be a good boss? Defuni almost did not interfere in her affairs, causing Defuni to change almost every aspect of Earth City. Who doesn't want this kind of boss? The battles and changes in the outside world are still continuing. The big mosquito in the meeting hall is as motionless as a mountain amid the constant war and changes. He is just the shining light in his compound eyes, getting brighter and brighter day by day. He is gathering strength. For Jia Yan, things in the outside world are nothing to pay attention to. At this moment, he is already on another level, because his fighting ability and survival ability cannot be shaken by ordinary forces and strong men. In this starry sky, reaching the starry sky level is already an existence on another level, even if the technological energy still takes the absolute initiative in the starry sky. However, when the biochemical empire obtained personal combat prowess and a clear concept of the hierarchy of the strong from the Zerg and spread it to the vast starry sky, the influence of the starry sky strongmen and the strength of their personal strength had only increased over the past 300 years. Here, it developed rapidly, and even now the strongest emperor of the biochemical empire, the Golden Emperor, whose combat power almost surpasses the entire starry sky. After reaching the starry sky level, even a large number of elementary starry sky level beings will still feel troubled by many technological weapons, and may even be killed by technological weapons. But every starry sky level has the potential to subvert a battle. After all, the combat power of starry sky level life forms is real. However, the weaknesses of technological equipment and technological weapons are always exposed. Compared with the almost perfect power of starry sky level life forms, the more powerful the technological weapons, the weaker they are. More and more, so that now, the alien empires in this starry sky have slowly begun to tilt their resources, that is, they have gradually shifted their focus from developing technology to cultivating strong people and fighting against strong people. On the way. But even so, a starry sky level powerhouse is still a sitting level existence. Even now, Jia Yan still doesn't know which category of starry sky level his strength belongs to. Although he is roughly sure that he belongs to starry sky level, the difference between starry sky level powerhouses is also huge. Jia Yan estimates that he is not a powerful starry sky level, and may even be a relatively low-level existence in terms of combat power, but Jia Yan still believes that he will not be afraid of any starry sky level existence. His greatest confidence is his own defense. That is a powerful defense that can even defend against gravitational waves. Jia Yan, who was lying on the ground, constantly cultivating his temperament and conditioning his body, had a dazzling light in his compound eyes. While cultivating his momentum, he gradually combined his fighting power with his knowledge of the starry sky. Got up. He has also learned more about gravitational waves through Defuni's explanations in the past few days, and after secretly arranging for several scientific researchers to come over and popularize them for himself. As he gradually learned more, he understood why he was called by Daphne as an incredible defensive life form. Because gravitational waves are not so easy to defend against. It was an extremely powerful energy. If it weren't for Jia Yan's Azure defense, which might be an extremely unique defensive force, it would be impossible to defend against the impact of this energy. After all, countless research materials and information have shown that the powerful energy displayed by this kind of gravitational wave can tear almost any known atom into pieces. And Jia Yan doesn't know why he can defend himself. Although theoretically, his blue defense cannot reach the level of defense against gravitational waves, but this does not mean that his blue defense is poor. On the contrary, his blue defense can be said to be among all the things Jia Yan has seen. The defensive power absolutely surpasses all physical beings. The defensive energy gathered through star condensation is definitely not a simple thing. And what he is most confident about in his combat effectiveness now is his defense and combat durability. This can be seen from the previous battle with the fifth strongest man of the Golden Desert, Long Wu. In that battle, Jia Yan's actual strength was not subversively stronger than the opponent's, but the opponent's combat power was. However, after fighting with all his strength, he quickly declined, but Jia Yan himself did not decline much. Jia Yan believes that this characteristic will not change even after mutation. So he could foresee it. Even his attack power, and even combat experience are still insufficient. However, because of his unparalleled defense and terrifying long-lasting fighting endurance, it is very likely that in the future, even if he cannot fight, he will be knocked down again and again, but still stand up tenaciously and continue to fight. After that, he even defeated or drove away the existence that was stronger than himself. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's blood boils. Very good. After a few days of understanding the alien's combat power and adjusting my body has been adjusted to the peak of its peaks. Jia Yan raised his head and looked at the sky above him. The strong fighting spirit in his compound eyes was almost ready to turn into reality, and he even couldn't wait. The gunslinger of the Asta people, the commander of the biochemical empire, the commander of the Zerg, and the many space battleships parked in the starry sky, when will you come, he muttered to himself. The Earth City's strong army is engaged in a decisive battle with the vigilante forces of the gray-yellow star planet number 5. It represents that this force that emerged in the Golden Desert has finally begun direct contact with the official forces of the gray and yellow star. What? The security team sent by our city was actually defeated? And less than half of it was recovered. Planet Gray-Yellow Star number 5, this is a large and prosperous city. Compared with the newer city number 6, this large city with a history of more than 70 years has a more complete city management system, and the police force is definitely more elite. But now, the elite army of police officers encountered a Waterloo on the way to annihilate the Jinmo forces. They were hit in the head. Less than half of the team found Shiyuan and fled back in embarrassment. This can be described as a slap in the face of the top brass of City No 5's management system. Asshole, they're just some little thieves wandering around in the desert. How can they be so arrogant? On this day, the management of City No. 5 gathered together in a rare moment. In a huge and spacious conference hall, rows of senior members were all present, sitting upright, with terrifyingly gloomy expressions on their faces. You must know that the largest defense team in City No. 5 is the sheriff's aircraft team, but some of them sent out actually suffered such a blow. If the situation is bad, both warring countries may express distrust in their leadership ability. They managers may undergo a collective change of leadership and may be pulled down from their high status. This is a matter of life and death. Now express your voting opinions. The one with the most votes is United City number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 6. They are requesting air support from the Asta Empire to launch a joint city defense army and launch a general attack on Earth City. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 454. Post the voting results now. The ones with the most votes are United City number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 6. They requested air support from the Asta Empire and launched a joint city defense army to launch a general attack on Earth City. A clerk publishes the conclusions reached by all high-level votes. At the same time, it was also announced that the threat to Earth City from the Golden Desert would be treated as the biggest crisis in City number 5. The reaction of City number 5 was extremely fast. Facing what might be the biggest defeat in hundreds of years, this city that had been sleeping for a long time seemed to wake up. Those senior officials who were worried about their status also acted very quickly, showing terrifying signs of high efficiency. Not long after, snowflakes of request messages and orders for wartime supplies were flying in all directions. This planet finally had a chain reaction because of Earth City. The Earth City, the Golden Desert, and the so-called Lord Assassin have finally officially entered the sight of all forces. In the pitch-black starry sky, there is a huge battleship standing quietly in a curtain-like vacuum. This battleship is extremely terrifying. Its head and tail are actually 2 kilometers long, and its slender gun barrels stretch out in all directions, able to completely eliminate all possible threats within sight. This is the most terrifying space battleship among all starry sky civilizations, the Starry Sky aircraft carrier. Such a huge warship has protection and combat capabilities that are not matched by any ground base, and its most powerful thing is not its own combat capabilities, but that it is an aircraft carrier similar to that in the Sea of the Earth, which can extremely unleash the ability of powerful combat units at close range. This Starry Sky aircraft carrier carries a terrifying number of 125 close-range small destroyers. It also has 200 single-person space battle armors. Once the battle begins, it can resemble a mother laying eggs. Chicken, releasing a huge number of combat units. The combat power of a star aircraft carrier can even sometimes win a local battle on its own. At this moment, there is an area in this powerful star aircraft carrier that is only for high-level living. A man in armor sat calmly on the open platform in the high-rise area. There was a thick metal spear placed at his feet. This spear was sharp and had a faint cold light. It seemed to have such power that it could poke a hole in the sky. What's even more frightening is that in the open area at this time, the transparent glass at the top was opened directly, and this man with a calm demeanor was exposed to the vacuum of the universe. He seemed unaware of the vacuum environment. He just picked up the noble drink placed on the table in front of him, tasted it elegantly, and browsed the holographic data in his hand. When he saw a report article, the man's vision changed slightly. "Hey, this Jin Mo force is quite interesting," he said lightly, and in the vacuum environment at this moment, his voice actually appeared talking to himself. It turns out to be the power of brain waves. This man's ability to survive in the vacuum of space is actually not much different from that on the ground. If you want to mention his name, then the name of this strong man will definitely make many starry sky civilizations tremble. One of the 5 strongest men in the Asta Empire, Gunslinger Odawa. The title of Gunslinger was gained through actual combat. He was able to win every shot in countless battles. His existence is a huge deterrent force for the entire Asta Empire. Even if they have not had a huge advantage in fighting against the so-called commander of the biochemical empire in the past few days, that can only show that the combat effectiveness of the soldiers of the biochemical empire is really strong, and the Asta Gunslinger has too many trump cards, and he just got it from another one before. Arriving from a battlefield without even recovering their strength, almost all the civilizations on the gray-yellow star understood that there was absolutely no chance of victory if the gun god Asta exerted his true power and the biochemical empire commanded Ula. "I'm so tired. I just came back from the battle with the Starry Sky Wandering Civilization Ronzi clan, and my injuries haven't even healed. After fighting so many times with Nala, I'm just getting more injured." The tall man shook his head helplessly. Looking at the holographic information about the news about Earth City in his hand, he browsed directly to the next report. He had seen countless small forces like this in the wars and civilizations he had experienced before. Even some of them made a big fuss, but each of them did not make a big splash. He did not think that the Earth City of Greystar will be an exception. For him, the biggest problem at the moment is the problem between the Greystar and the biochemical empire and the Zerg army. In this case, even if I quickly recover my strength, it is impossible to wipe out the biochemical empire and the Zerg in one go. That would affect the whole body and give the biochemical empire an excuse to start a full-scale war. And now our Asta Empire, just like the Rulan Empire, it is trapped in the quagmire of war with the Seen Kong wandering race and the Ronzi clan. It is simply impossible to open another battlefield with the biochemical empire. We cannot afford to fight. He sighed. As a powerful figure in the Asta Empire, he was originally an absolutely militant hawk, but in this situation, even he, a militant figure, was a little afraid of fighting. Your Excellency, the defenders on the Grey-Yellow Star battlefield have once again launched a small-scale battle with the biochemical empire. Do you see it? Suddenly, the communicator transmitted a voice that made Odawa stunned. This biochemical empire won't even let people take a good rest, Odawa let out a long sigh. Then the tall, haggard man grabbed the thick metal spear placed on the metal floor. He was looking at the bottom of the huge starship aircraft carrier, where there was a vast planet that was gray and yellow in color. Suddenly, this person's legs kicked off. I saw a wonderful arc drawn in the starry sky. This Asta gunman actually flew down towards the gray-yellow star below the starry sky aircraft carrier. A small-scale battle between the Asta Empire, the biochemical empire, and the Zerg began again. But in any case, in the memory of the powerful Asta gun god Odawa, the name of Earth City and the name of the powerful leader of Earth City, Assassin Lord, can be regarded as remembered. Maybe in the days to come, this name will appear in his mind again, maybe. To him, the so-called assassin now is just a small figure who leads a small force. This is the Asta Empire. Their attitude towards the sudden rise of a small force in the Golden Desert is just an indigenous force on a warring planet. They are not afraid at all. Moreover, at this time, they have not really analyzed the details of the force in Earth City. Because it's simply not necessary. On the contrary, it is another huge starry sky civilization force that has conducted great research on Earth City. This force is the Rulan Empire that once controlled the Grey Star together with the Asta Empire, which is what Daphne calls the Empire. Although the Rulan Empire has been expelled and replaced by the biochemical empire in the Grey and Yellow Star field, they are still the most powerful force in this starry sky, except for Asta and the biochemical empire. Just outside the Grey and Yellow Star, the Rulan Empire deployed 15 conventional class 500-meter class battleships. The so-called protecting the safety of people in the Grey-Yellow Star Rulan. This is a good excuse. Even the biochemical empire will not start a full-scale war with the Rulan Empire again for this reason. Today's Rulan Empire, even though its power in the Grey-Yellow Star is as strong as the Western Mountains, can still deter the other forces except the Asta Empire and the biochemical empire. At the same time, they are also the super force that knows the most about Earth City today. The so-called Lord Assassin is what the biochemist De Funi once said, a native evolutionary beast from the Earth. And the power of this monster far exceeds previous estimates. From the fact that he can intimidate and even kill many Jin Mo from the perspective of medium and powerful life forms, the strength of this evolved beast is definitely at the peak of the heaven level. In the starry sky area more than 100,000 kilometers away from the Grey-Yellow Star, there is an asteroid belt, and a small group of Rulan battleships are lurking here. The distance of hundreds of thousands of kilometers is only a short distance for the star battleships. At this moment, they are still watching with eagerness, waiting for the outcome of the battle between the Asta Empire and the biochemical empire, and may counterattack the Grey Star at any time. But at this moment, the Rulan battleship headquarters did not put the affairs of the Asta Empire and the biochemical empire in the first place as usual. Instead, they focused almost all research directions on the strong rise of the Grey-Yellow Star. Earth City. We know a lot about the information about Earth City from De Funi. We did not keep her at that time, but research shows that this biochemical woman did not lie at that time. So about the biochemical beast, and even about gravity, what the wave theory says is true. In the headquarters of the Rulan Empire, the supreme commander of the Rulan army, who is also the highest officer of the Grey Star, had an extremely excited look in his eyes at this moment. Facing the other senior leaders of the Rulan army who were coming, he launched a series of reports about what Defuni had reported. Information. A senior officer named Rulan Jun looked at the reports one after another. His originally unmoved expression slowly changed, especially when he saw the words gravitational wave theory in big letters. Everyone had expressions of disbelief. They are all soldiers, and they are also a talented student from a higher education institution in the Rulan Empire. They absolutely understand the theory of gravitational waves and even have data on actual successful experiences. These things are very important to the Rulan Empire and even the civilization of this entire star field. What a huge temptation it is. Let's put it this way, the entire starry sky civilization such as the Rulan Empire today only knows about a star field with a radius of more than 700 light-years. No matter how far away, there may be interstellar civilizations, but due to the distance factor, things there cannot be done. Now they don't know much about it. If this gravitational wave theory can be mastered, then for the Rulan Empire, more than 700 light-years will no longer be a problem. You know, according to the data submitted by Daphne, it only took them about a month, Earth time, to cross the 20 light-year distance from the Earth to the Shoals galaxy. You know, even the fastest aircraft in the Rulan Empire takes at least 10 years to fly over a distance of 20 light-years. A leap of 20 light-years in 10 years is already something that can be achieved by exceeding the speed of light and using technologies such as curvature navigation and alien gravity memory routes. But the gravitational wave theory that Daphne talked about actually shortened this time by dozens or hundreds of times. They might even have accidentally hit it in the first place and wasted a lot of operable things. It only took more than a month. If they continued to squeeze it, they might be able to span a distance of 20 light-years in less than a month. What a temptation this is. If they can obtain this technology, then their Rulan civilization will leave all current civilizations far behind. They can even rely on relevant technologies to surpass other civilizations in technological level. Maybe they can defeat Rulan with one weapon. The Empire, an ordinary overlord of the starry sky, might become a real overlord of the starry sky. Some of the senior officials of the Rulan army also have an appearance similar to those on Earth, but they are different from the Asta people. These humanoid life forms are closer to certain animals in appearance. As for the rest, there are monsters like big frogs and brown birds. At this moment, these living beings are all extremely surprised. Looking at the series of data about the gravitational wave theory, they are simply full of desire. Having this kind of powerful technology, among other things, is an unimaginable benefit even for their troops. Think about it, they can reach the enemy's lair at will, wipe out the opponent's sister-in-law army, and then fight again disappearing from the enemy's sight. Such a war can be won no matter how hard it is fought. But when they saw the information description below, it was mentioned that Defuni, a cyborg woman who had returned from afar, actually escaped from the Rulan Empire office because of some trivial matters, which made them all grit their teeth. I didn't expect that such a major discovery would be given up by those fat-headed Rulan officials in the Grey and Yellow Star, and now they actually let the woman go to the so-called Earth City. In this case, wouldn't it be difficult for them to obtain her data? Yet. And that biochemical man was also terrifying. He was able to completely eliminate the data stored in the Rulan Empire before leaving. Although there were reasons why the officials did not pay attention to it at the time, the other person could do such a thing alone. It was also an extremely surprising thing for them. We must bring that Defuni back, and even the so-called assassin, the evolved beast, must be captured. Even if it doesn't work, Defuni must provide information about gravitational waves again. This is our first priority now. The commander of Rulan Empire finally made a decision on what will happen next. The advantage we have now is that the Asta Empire and the Biochemical Empire still don't pay much attention to Earth City, So if we use some excuses to intervene or even send troops to the Golden Desert, they may not. If the reaction is too big, you will have to pay a certain price at worst. Remember, the next thing is the most critical part. We must not only prevent the major forces from noticing us, but also prevent Defuni and the assassin from escaping. This matter is still extremely difficult. So we need to figure it out slowly. This task is divided into 3 steps. It is estimated that the gray-yellow star will take 8 days. Next, the plan will be distributed to you. Please note that the confidential registration of this plan is A-level. The leaker must die. Following the words of the top executive of the Rulan Empire, the already tight discussion room suddenly fell into silence. The recent situation in Earth City has developed too fast. Every life form in the Earth City has a feeling of being in the clouds and fog, and also feels like riding a roller coaster. Even some life forms secretly escaped from the Earth City at this moment because it attracted too much attention. After all, there are still discerning people. Even though Earth City is sweeping across the entire Golden Desert now, it looks extremely beautiful, but the first thing to hit it is that in the hundreds of years of history of the Golden Desert, there have been some extremely powerful forces, but none of them have appeared in Earth City. Such a terrifying desire for invasion does not mean that the powerful forces in the past did not have their own ideas of expansion, but that they did not dare. After all, this planet is still the back garden of those big true civilization level forces. Even if these civilizations are fighting life and death here, it is absolutely impossible for those small forces to think that they can take advantage of the opportunity to intervene. After all, if someone randomly arranges a small fighting team, they may be able to completely wipe out a so-called powerful force. No matter how much these Golden Desert forces move around, they can't possibly compete with a real starry sky level civilization, right? After all, those who can be called starry sky level civilizations can be found at Yuan. Those are powerful civilizations that control at least several galaxies. Even the powerful race like the Ronzi clan, which can wage war against the Rulan Empire and the Asta Empire at the same time, cannot be called a starry sky civilization, but is defined as a wandering race by all starry sky civilizations. And the small Earth City wants to stir up trouble in the competition between several major civilizations. This is simply impossible. Those smarter life forms have discovered that Earth City is touching the sensitive nerves of those civilization-level forces and is completely seeking death. Reporting to Lady Defuni, according to our statistics, the number of people leaving Earth City today once again exceeded 3,000, reaching a new high of more than 3,100. Sir, if this continues, Earth City will collapse. The Noodle Man stood in front of a woman who looked like an Earthling. At this moment, there was an extremely worried look on his elongated cheeks. It doesn't matter. If these people want to leave, then let's go. Earth City doesn't need people who are unstable. Daphne was still reading the virtual light screen in front of her, which showed various tasks given to her remotely by her subordinates. Report. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 455. The Noodle Man in front of Defuni was the same Noodle Man who had questioned Defuni before. Even though he had questioned this woman, he was still promoted by Defuni. After all, his working ability is still extremely strong. Hearing Defuni's words at this moment, the Noodle Man sighed softly, and even in the bottom of his heart, the thought of leaving flashed across his mind. But thinking about his belongings in Earth City and his previous gambling thoughts, he could only say nothing more at this moment. He bowed respectfully to Defuni and then retreated. Daphne sat alone on a tall chair. The office she was in was also converted from a huge chariot. If an emergency occurred, she could escape quickly. She looked out the floor-to-ceiling window at the members of Earth City who were walking around. At this moment, she was looking down from the height of the 7 or 8-story building. I saw that the living creatures walking on the ground had become scarce. Alas! The woman let out a long sigh, her voice containing helplessness. In Earth City, there were not many guests in a small tavern. A few children were sitting in the corner, surrounded by tall cleaning robots. These children are all orphans in Earth City. Each of them has found a place to study and work in Earth City. But at this moment, several children are listless, hiding in the corner of the bar and lazing around. Lulu, did you say that Uncle Moscai, whom you met a few days ago, has left? I haven't seen him for several days. Kajia looked at the number of customers in the store and quietly retracted his head under the table. Next to him is the little girl with rabbit ears. At this moment, the little girl with rabbit ears is also sneaking around. Even if these homeless children can feel the changes in their environment, for them, there is no place to go but this Earth City with an uncertain future. Waiting for fate to be pronounced. Lulu doesn't know either. Lulu hugged her knees and huddled her whole little body under the table. Seeing this rabbit-eared girl like this, Kajia curled his lips and stopped talking. The changes in the adults made them still less motivated. Okay, you guys are slacking here again. Be careful and I will tell your supervisor. Suddenly, a rough voice rang in the ears of Lulu and the other children. Kaga was startled and his head hit the corner of the table. Suddenly, he clutched his forehead tightly in pain, and tears began to roll in his eyes. Uncle Luca. Why are you scaring us again? Didn't you say you could let us come here to be lazy? However, when Lulu saw the visitor, she looked contemptuous and didn't feel the slightest bit frightened. It was an octopus-like life form. He wore clothes with many holes and had countless tentacles extending out to take care of the hygiene in the store. This is the operator of this restaurant and one of the first store owners allowed to operate in Earth City. In fact, this life form is also a powerful alien, but in the Earth City where there are many strong people. It's not that outstanding. It's just that as a former nearby convoy leader, after being semi-forcefully annexed by Earth City, he lost the mood to compete again. After all, alien intelligent life forms also have life limits, especially this individual has an octopus-like body. These are fish-evolved individuals that were studied by an intelligent civilization in the past. As a result, they have now become individuals found on many planets in the entire star field. Their only shortcoming is that their lifespan is not long, which may be about 80 years of the Earth. After fighting again and again, the original leader. Now that Earth City has annexed his own power, he only has a little savings left. In Earth City, his abilities are not outstanding, and his lifespan has reached about 70 Earth years. He has made plans for the remaining 10 years. That is to no longer compete for hegemony, but to survive as an ordinary individual by opening a store in Earth City. That's why this store came about. At this moment, Lulu is waiting for the children to come to the store. This is the idea he had before. Perhaps he is considerate of these children. As an octopus monster who used to kill many people, he actually makes it easy for these children and allows them to rest in the store often. However, these children often fight in the store and have become a part of the bar's scenery, attracting many Earth City residents and Earth Army personnel to come here. Little Lulu, what you said is wrong. Why did Uncle promise you to come here to rest, but he didn't promise not to scare you? The octopus monster wiped the items in the store with its tentacles everywhere, while teasing some of them. Children under the table. In fact, he also knows that the managers of Earth City may not know about the children's laziness, but they just don't mind. After all, it is impossible for these children to live completely free in Earth City. Giving them a symbolic job is just an excuse. When Lulu heard the words of the octopus monster, she immediately giggled. Uncle Luca is so bad, but she didn't mean to be timid at all. She knew there was no way the octopus monster could do that. You little guy, I think among these children, You and Kajia are the two most ghostly. The octopus monster also laughed and continued to tease Lulu. Among this group of children, everyone's favorites are the sensible Kajia and the lively and lovely Lulu. Although all living beings may have different aesthetic values, the definitions of beauty and ugliness are generally the same. Too big. For example, little girls with long ears like Lulu are very popular with both the octopus monster and the guests in terms of appearance and cute personality. Uncle Luca, do you think our Earth City is about to be in trouble? As they said, suddenly, the more sensible Kajia crawled out from under the table and asked eagerly, looking at the octopus monster. The octopus monster really hadn't thought about this question, and was immediately stopped by the question. As a bar owner, how could he not hear the rumors? Moreover, several customers who came yesterday have disappeared today, and may have left this emerging city permanently. I believe in Master Assassin and Master Daphne. Don't think too much about it, you little guys. Aren't you just like me? You have nowhere else to go but here. Don't think so much, Uncle, I believe it. With the assassin's abilities, even if there is any crisis, he will definitely be able to solve it, the octopus monster reassured the children. Several children nodded with smiles. The octopus monster is right. The children hiding under the table are all orphans. In this desert, only Earth City will accept them unconditionally. Even if Earth City is in danger, they cannot leave Earth City. After all, there is nowhere to go. That's right, Lulu, why don't you sing 2 more songs for your uncles? I heard that you have sung for Lord Assassin before. How about we listen to the beautiful singing voice that Lord Assassin has also heard? At this moment, several drunken bar patrons stood up. Heckled. No, Lulu still smiled coquettishly. This is why most drinkers like to tease her. This little girl with rabbit ears is very cute. Huh. Just when Lulu was being amused by several drinkers, her dark red eyes suddenly flickered, and her pupils looked into the distance of the sky. It is actually night at this moment, but the dark night of the gray-yellow star can last for about 2 days in Earth time, so at this moment the Earth City is still following certain rules and carrying out life equivalent to daytime. Lulu served as a lookout for the previous team. Her eyes were very good. She was amused by the guests and glanced at the horizon inadvertently. But at this glance, Lulu discovered what she was most afraid of seeing in the Alu's team. Sheriff aircraft. In the distant sky, there are gray and yellow star police officer aircraft flying towards this place. It's not good, Uncle Luca. Report quickly. An enemy attack is coming, Lulu suddenly screamed. The drinkers waiting for her to sing were stunned. However, the octopus monster reacted very quickly. One of its tentacles rolled up the communicator beside the bar and was about to report Lulu's discovery to it. Even now, he hasn't discovered where the so-called enemy is, but he chooses to trust Lulu's judgment. After all, he also knew that Lulu had been the lookout for the Alu's team before, and he knew even better. On this gray-yellow star full of interference waves, many conventional detection methods are not as effective as the sight and ear power of a long-eared person like Lulu. But obviously, compared to the quickly approaching sheriff's aircraft, the response here is much slower. Boom! Just when he took out the communicator, an attack from the sky was already in the bar store. Exploded. The screams are endless. With the arrival of the sheriff's aircraft army, even Jia Yan, a powerful starry sky-level being, made an oversight. Today is the most critical moment for Jia Yan to adjust his body to its peak, so today he has a void in the surveillance of the outside world, and what he did not expect is that such a number of police officers will come. Aircraft. In the dark night sky, the aircraft pierced the sky, reaching a terrifying speed of more than 5 times the speed of sound. They flew in the night sky in an organized manner, and then headed towards the brightly lit Earth City, making a fierce dive. When the first wave of light attacks falling from the sky broke the tranquility in the night sky, Jia Yan is still immersed in adjusting his body. He didn't expect that Earth City would be attacked after being distracted for a moment. After all, the speed of the sheriff's aircraft is extremely fast, it can be said that it comes like lightning, and its attack speed is meaningless and sluggish, which is extremely terrifying. Not good. The moment Jia Yan sensed an attack blazing not far away, his body moved in surprise. Boom! His huge, dark body immediately smashed through the wall of the assembly hall. He had no time to go through the gate, and destroyed and collapsed the assembly hall that was finally built. The wings vibrated violently and flew up. At this moment, Jia Yan was in an unbelievable physical peak condition and felt that his body had endless power. However, the scenery in front of him made Jia Yan grit his teeth and make his compound eyes almost spit out fire. In the starry night sky, the disc-like aircraft, like ants, are impossible to count. They are flying wildly in the sky belonging to Earth City, emitting their own attack light. Each of those aircraft is a police aircraft, and there may be more than 200 of them just where Jia Yan can see them. This is no longer a small-scale battle, it can be called a huge battle. This kind of battle is simply not something that ordinary forces can launch. Even if those super-powerful forces are almost impossible to activate, then their identity will only be one, the combined army of peace officers and aircraft from several major cities. Jia Yan was able to analyze the origins of these attacking beings almost immediately. After all, as a force with such a powerful army, there are not many in the gray-yellow star, and there is a huge gap between it and Earth City. The only one that has been successfully blocked by Earth City is the sheriff system. But it's useless to know the other person's origin. At this moment, Jia Yan saw the huge battle group of the sheriff's aircraft, and beams of light shot down. When he saw with his own eyes that the Earth City, which had been built with countless efforts by Daphne and many Earth City members, was destroyed at a terrifying speed, an emotion that he originally thought would not appear filled the air at this moment. It's in my heart. In the past few days, he had not cared so much about Daphne's vigorous efforts to build Earth City, and had even been disdainful. But I saw this place becoming prosperous step by step. His mentality has at least changed a little. After all, he has a share of the credit for this. In fact, it has been a few days since the Earth City was raging in the Golden Desert. Jia Yan had long guessed that one or two of those forces should have jumped out at this moment. But what I didn't expect was that he was the first one to come. They are actually the police teams of several major cities. They even acted like a sneak attack. Asshole! Jia Yan's wings shook, and he soared into the sky toward the flying machines in the sky. The black shadow flashed, and a huge dark monster in the sky shot out from the ground, his first target. It's the nearest aircraft. As the absolute main force in maintaining public security on the Gray and Yellow Star, the peace officer aircraft in several major cities can be said to be only slightly behind the weapons systems of the belligerent countries. Compared with the weapons of the general forces, they are simply far superior. At this moment, they are flying one by one, spraying their own light towards the ground because they have advanced energy supply systems. So at this moment, they can pour their firepower downwards without any scruples until the force headquarters below is completely destroyed. This is what the sheriff's aircraft operators have been doing before. Although they don't know why they have summoned so many companions this time, they believe that there is no chance of an accident this time. These arrogant operators were so arrogant that they did not take a detailed look at what kind of opponent they were facing this time. Until, a huge flying life form with a height of 30 meters quickly flew towards one of their partners. Bang! There was simply no room for evasion or resistance for the sheriff's aircraft. It cut directly under the knife-shaped horns of the flying monster's front legs and made a huge explosion in the air. You actually dare to knock on your door. It seems that if I don't give you some trouble, no small fish or shrimp will take me, Jia Yan, seriously. The big mosquito cut off an aircraft with a knife-shaped horn on its front foot, and then continued flying forward. At the same time, in the Earth City where there was smoke everywhere, figures of strong men quickly flew into the sky. At this moment, the Earth City has an extremely large number of powerful people, among which there are dozens of powerful beings who can use the power of brain waves to fly. This is extremely terrifying power. These strong men reacted quickly. After receiving the first wave of attacks, they all used their wings or powerful brainwave power to resist the intruders in the sky. Boom boom boom. Just the first one to make contact, among the aircraft in the sky, there were 7 or 8 sheriff aircraft, which exploded and crashed. At the same time, 2 of the strong men in Earth City, who were still a little weak because of their strength, were hit by the aircraft's attack, penetrated their bodies, and fell directly to their deaths. The first contact in the battle was extremely brutal. Among the many strong men in Earth City, one of them, a small figure wearing armor, did not have much presence. But what the Sheriff's Alliance didn't know was that this short and inconspicuous-looking strong person was now the real defense and commander of Earth City, and she was directing the overall situation at the moment. Don't panic, 0709, 31 Northwest. 41, 84, 92, Southeast. 28, 35, 68, 25 Southwest. This woman with dark red hair, has a graceful figure. She keeps firing the 2 guns in her hands. At the same time, she opens her mouth slightly and issues precise orders one after another. She is Daphne. Although this was a surprise attack, and even the big Mosquito whom she trusted so much did not discover the opponent's army before the enemy appeared, but as a qualified commander, he still showed good qualities at this moment. Orderly orders were issued one after another. After the order was issued, the movements of those strong men who had seemed a little flustered gradually stabilized. Although this is the first time for everyone to see so many sheriff aircraft, they have all been experienced in many battles before, and many of them may have had combat experience with sheriff aircraft, so these powerful aircraft are now, after accepting Daphne's orders one by one, the situation became a little more stable. However, according to the prompts from the emergency intelligence observer below, the number of sheriff's aircraft that attacked this time actually reached a total of more than 460. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 456. The number of the Sheriff's coalition forces far exceeds the number that Earth City's strong men and Earth City's defenses can resist. Seeing them flying all over the sky, Daphne couldn't help but wonder if all the Sheriff's aircraft from the entire Grey Star had gathered in the Golden Desert and gathered here in the Earth City. Even if you miss, you're not far off. Among the Sheriff's aircraft at the moment, there was one that seemed inconspicuous, and in it sat a top commander from City Number 5. At this moment, the officer's face was ferocious. You must know that this move was a proposal made by him. Later, it was approved by most of the high-level officials in City 5. Only then did he become the commander-in-chief of most of the peace officer aircraft of more than 400 gray and yellow stars. Commander-in-chief. If he loses this battle, then everything he has done on the Grey Star, so many years of hard work, and even his life and fortune may be lost here. As a person who has worked hard for many years and finally climbed to a high position, how can he allow this? Something happened. So he wants to fight, and he must win. Attack. Here are just some bandits using low-end weapons. Their combat power is not even comparable to that of the natives of many indigenous planets. Blow this place up, the commander issued a fierce order. There were more than 460 aircraft, and after the first contact with the Earth City strongmen, more than 10 aircraft were lost, and after Jia Yan's huge body also killed more than 10 aircraft in one breath, he still issued in the first wave of attacks against more than 400 aircraft. It was also the most destructive wave of attacks. Boom 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 boom. The ground is splashed with gravel, rubble is sprayed everywhere, and waves of red lasers submerge the entire Earth City. Ah! The Sheriff's army is attacking. Earth City is doomed. Run away. A person from Earth City may be shouting this out of sincerity, but most of them are still people who are not so sincerely surrendering to Earth City. The living form screamed loudly at this moment. Every life form is extremely frightened. The cohesion of Earth City, which is not very strong, is fully reflected at this time. Even the so-called intelligent life forms that have the right to live in Earth City are facing the outside world without any thought of resistance. Escape. The Earth City barely had a part of the defenders. After the strong men flew into the sky to resist, they returned to some tanks and fired counter-attack rays towards the flying machines in the sky. The sky is filled with combat aircraft of more than 20 meters in length. Each of the more than 400 aircraft is equipped with more advanced combat weapons than the aircraft driven by Daifuni before. Even today's Jia Yan also feels that it is difficult, it is not an existence that can be eliminated in a short time. Bang! The sharp 4-foot, with one stab, stabbed a police officer's aircraft on the tip of his forefoot. I saw a violent light burst out in front of me, the aircraft exploded, disintegrated, and fell. It's the 15th ship, but they still haven't retreated. Jia Yan had a strange look in his eyes. This army of sheriff's aircraft posed no threat to him at all. Red rays of light shone on his body, but a faint blue light appeared on the surface of his body, and those attacks posed no threat at all. These were once extremely scary objects for Jia Yan, but in his eyes now, they are not much different from toys. However, there were too many opponents, and their speed was not slow either. Jia Yan found that the army of aircraft in front of him had distanced itself from him after discovering his bravery. Even if he pursued him, the opponent could still escape. Avoid and avoid, it often takes a long time to chase before destroying a ship. This is too inefficient. But he can't find a way for the time being. Jia Yan has too many worries. He did not show all his power now because he was not sure what he would face next. After all, there are too many things that can threaten him on this planet, so he cannot directly waste the powerful power he has cultivated at this moment. Therefore, Jia Yan can only use about half of his full strength at this moment, and needs to maintain huge physical fitness and condition to deal with possible emergencies next. Die. Boom boom boom. The big Mosquito turned around and attacked an aircraft that appeared on his right in the air. He stabbed it hard in his front feet, causing it to lose power. Then he flicked it and made it fall to the ground. After that, at this time, he attacked the aircraft one after another. He saw the scenery on the ground bit by bit, every scene of destruction, and the residents of Earth City who fell on the ground. All reflected in the eyes of the big Mosquito. There was a strange color in Jia Yanfu's eyes. Although he had said repeatedly that he had an indifferent attitude towards the power of Earth City, but if the time here was converted to Earth time, it might have been so long since his rebirth. It was the first time he had been in a town for such a long time. Although he was reborn as a cold-blooded animal, as a mosquito with a human soul, how could he really not be moved at all? At this moment, the big Mosquito has memorized those ruined scenes in his mind, bit by bit. Perhaps these bits and pieces will turn into bits and pieces of anger in his mind. Although he is not angry at the moment, it is like a volcano. It will erupt one day, and the more suppressed it is, the more terrifying it will be when it erupts. Uncle Luca. I'm afraid. Lulu hugged a slender tentacle and held it tightly, refusing to relax at all. The little girl with rabbit ears was horrified. What was a very cozy bar before turned into a dilapidated building in an instant. The sea of fire filled the sight. If the octopus monster Luca hadn't hugged Lulu and Kajia with his body just before the explosion, they might have been buried in the sea of fire now. Frightened tears rolled down Lulu's big eyes, making her pupils look even redder. Kajia beside him didn't know if he was injured in the shock wave. His eyes were tightly closed and he had already passed out. As for the other children, Luca had no time to rescue them. Lulu looked outside and saw that the sea of fire had dimmed a little, but it was so devastated that no one could be seen alive. Uncle Luca, seeing that the flames had dimmed, Lulu shook the octopus monster that was trying to kill her, but the opponent's tentacles, which were originally full of power, softened silently under Lulu's small shaking. Slide down softly. Bada. The tentacles hit the ground, and then the huge body surrounding Lulu and Kajia collapsed completely. Lulu was shocked. She didn't understand that Uncle Luca, the octopus monster, actually spent his entire life to save her and Kajia. Uncle Luca. Wake up! Lulu's face was covered with traces of charcoal, and there was a large burnt mark on her arm, but she ignored the pain and went to help the big octopus monster that fell on the ground. But the next moment, Lulu seemed to have seen something terrible, and she retracted her little hand in fright. It turned out that half of Uncle Luca's body had been destroyed long ago on the side facing away from them, leaving only some body organs slowly flowing down. The octopus monster's unique transparent blood flowed all over the floor. Perhaps it was this monster, with its certain strength, that could resist part of the power of light and protect Lulu and Kajia. Ding ding, Gia, Kanman. Where are you? Lulu looked at the almost destroyed shapeless cleaning robots over there and called out the names of her friends who were still around before, but there was no response. Lulu saw the corpses of several guests. They had made fun of Lulu and the others before, but now they had turned into corpses that could not speak. Whoa! Everyone, wake up, Lulu is so scared. Lulu watched half of the pay, stood in the dilapidated bars everywhere, opened her mouth and cried loudly. This little girl with bunny ears simply cannot bear such pain. Maybe this little girl doesn't understand her hardships, but her appearance has always been a cute and optimistic image with a bright smile, because she also understand, if you are not strong, an orphan like her without a father and mother will not be able to survive. But now, this little girl with rabbit ears completely collapsed. Snapped. Another small hand held her tightly. Lulu turned around in surprise and saw Kajia, whose forehead was covered with blood, standing up unsteadily. He held Lulu tightly with one hand and staggered. Let's go quickly, find a safe place and hide. Kajia moved step by step, pulling Lulu forward. Kaga. Lulu wiped her tears as she followed the boy. The two children kept climbing in the ruins. There were still countless red lights shooting down from the sky around them, like monsters that were constantly pouring out misery. Every life in the Earth City was destroyed, and one by one the acquaintances of the two children fell to the ground. Into the earth. Boom 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 boom. Daphne is holding two short guns in her hands. These are two weapons from the Rulan Empire. Because the Rulan Empire has been hostile to the Asta Empire since history, their weapons have always been highly targeted, so Daphne's latest shotgun has a combat power bonus for these aircraft. The shotgun that was supposed to be unable to break through the powerful defense of the aircraft was actually able to fire a powerful electromagnetic bullet. This bullet was shot at the sheriff's aircraft obtained from the Asta Empire and could use a unique magnetic resonance effect. Destroy the aircraft's anti-gravity flight system. As a result, the aircraft that were shot by Daphne seemed to lose power and fell downwards. However, after Daphne puts on the equipment, although she is powerful, it is not her real combat power after all. Therefore, facing such a number of aircraft at this moment, her single-person combat ability is not great. Even if they have weapons that can restrain the aircraft, due to insufficient dynamic vision, they cannot keep up with the sheriff's aircraft that come and go at speeds of 5, even 6 or 7 times the speed of sound on Earth. 08, 27, and 89 are reorganized into a team, 02, 47, and 38 rebels. I declare that anyone who sees them can be killed on the spot. Their property belongs to the killer. Daphne gritted her teeth, looking heroic at this moment. Amid the coolness, there is a hint of chilling air. Since the battle, 7 or 8 of the strong men in Earth City have died, but 5 have escaped. This makes the situation even worse for Earth City, where there are not many strong men. Daphne looked at the large mosquitoes that were constantly chasing the enemy over there. Their flying speed exceeded 15 times the speed of sound and were invincible across the entire battlefield. She bit her lips and relaxed a little. She even discovered that the battle scope of the big mosquito over there has been vaguely surrounding her, because the desire of the big mosquito to return to the Earth is hers, so at this moment, even if the entire Earth City dies, it is impossible for Daifu to Ni is dead. In this way, Daphne's chances of survival are still very high. After all, as someone who knows the big mosquito, she has a very good understanding of its true combat power. But she refused. Looking at the Earth City under her feet, where most of the ground was engulfed by the flames of war, there was anger in her eyes. Compared with the mosquito, as a person who worked hard to develop the city, she spent so much effort, and the city she finally built turned into a sea of fire. More importantly, several of her buildings where supplies were stored were also submerged at this moment. Being in the flames, how could this not make her angry? 06, 18, 19, gather towards the center. Cooperate with the assassin to launch a counterattack. She continued to bite her lip and issue the order. Boom boom boom. The war is still going on. Sir, sir. Our losses have reached 75. The enemy flying monster suspected of being the Lord Assassin is too powerful. Most of the aircraft we lost were caused by him. They came from other cities. The team requests to withdraw to recuperate and fight again later. In the commander's aircraft located in the center of more than 400 aircraft, the correspondent relayed a list of battle damage and request information from other aircraft. No. We must not retreat. We still have backup plans. The so-called assassin has nothing to be afraid of, but the commander was already ferocious and a little crazy. As a commander of City Number 5, how could he let such a great situation go down at this moment? He could see that the Earth City below was just a bunch of rabble. Although there were quite a few who had the strength, they might really be the most powerful people in the history of their city. Against the most powerful opponent, but this opponent does not have any cohesion. As long as he persists a little longer, the entire city's defense system will definitely collapse. When the time comes, the powerful flying monster will be unable to fly alone, and with the power of the backhand, it will be just a matter of words to capture him. He absolutely believed in the power of the backhand. If that being couldn't take down this flying strongman, then they who were here today would have suffered huge losses. Bang 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 bang. The sharp wings brushed against an aircraft, and the aircraft was beautifully cut into two pieces. Big mosquitoes fly by. There seems to be something wrong. During the battle, Jia Yan continued to strangle his opponents, but he believed that as long as he kept killing enemies efficiently, even with his current strength, he could drive away all these enemy aircraft. But after killing the aircraft, he suddenly discovered something was wrong. There is nothing wrong with the sheriff's aircraft. The weapons they can basically use have been fully used. Even before, because of my sense of crisis, I flew something that might be similar to the Earth's missile into the air. It will explode when it falls 10 kilometers away. Apart from this kind of weapon, they should have no other backup plan. Jia Yan was analyzing. As someone who understood the situation on this planet, he already knew that the vigilantes he was facing now were unlikely to have truly powerful weapons. Even the aircraft they owned were not too weak. But there are no weapons of mass destruction except the powerful missiles because they violate the regulations of several belligerent countries. As for the powerful weapon although Jia Yan fanned it away, after it exploded 10 kilometers away, it looked like a cloud bomb on the Earth, forming a small sun in the night sky within a short period of time, but its strength was not enough for the deterrent effect of Jia Yan's existence is not that great. So what Jia Yan senses is wrong cannot come from these aircraft of the sheriff. Because even if they did have powerful weapons, they would not dare to use them in such a war. if it weren't for the sheriffs. Then it is a belligerent country. Jia Yan suddenly realized that on this planet, only the great warring empire could come up with more powerful weapons than the belligerent countries. At the same moment, Jia Yan's head was raised proudly in the air, and his compound eyes looked toward the night sky above him with sparkling light. In the pitch-black night sky, there were still tiny twinkling stars that were flashing like ordinary ones, just like the blinking eyes. Very dazzling. But Jia Yan had no idea of appreciating the beautiful scenery. He just amplified the bad feeling that had always existed in him to the maximum at this moment. He finally found it. In the ultra-high night sky, a huge metal flying object that seemed to come from the sky slowly crossed the endless distance and pressed hard towards this vast desert area. That's a battleship. A battleship from the Asta Empire. It is also the greatest confidence for the sheriff, the commander-in-chief of a large group of aircraft. A real battleship. Haha. The Asta battleship is here. With its existence, Earth City, and assassins, can you still resist? The commander-in-chief, who was protected by the sheriff's aircraft, finally issued a message, a proud laugh. The metal monster flying down from the sky reaches a length of more than 200 meters. Its beautiful shell seems to be full of blood and fire. Obviously this is not a battleship without combat experience, it may even be a battleship with rich combat experience. The presence. He is soaring down from the universe, the most powerful weapon in war among real alien civilizations. Space Battleship. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 457. Space Battleship. Master the true most powerful weapon in interstellar civilization. In front of it, all aircraft, metal monsters, and metal monster buildings stand aside. Only this kind of thing is the true embodiment of dominating the war and strength of alien civilizations. They are the truly powerful things. Countless wars and countless baptisms of blood and fire have proven their power. Even though the distance is still several kilometers, the huge body and the powerful aura that has experienced the baptism of blood and fire have already penetrated the far distance, making the life forms below look shocked. That is a sword that presses over the heads of all alien intelligent life forms, just like that powerful guillotine. Countless forces really dare not confront the big civilization head-on, just because of this kind of thing. Perhaps the existence of battleships is due to the rise of the biochemical empire in the past 300 years. The empire that worships individual strength has brought the concept of the strong to the star field. However, at least until now, the biochemical empire has not proven that a completely individual the strength can surpass that of battleships. Even the biochemical empire itself needs the help of battleships from time to time. Moreover, even they who worship personal strength also have a huge fleet of battleships. It can be seen that the existence of battleships is of great significance to all interstellar civilizations. What an important thing! At this moment, the powerful beings in Earth City all had expressions of death on their faces when they saw the space battleship falling from high altitude. They may be powerful, but life experts who have not reached the starry sky level. Facing a real starry sky battleship, they are not much different from ordinary life forms. Even because of their huge bodies, they are still a better target. So when these Earth City strongmen who were still fighting desperately before saw this space battleship, they immediately understood that it was a helper from a certain star force invited by the sheriffs. If this battleship launched an attack on them. Thinking of this, the life-form experts who originally didn't have much sense of belonging to Earth City finally had frightening thoughts about fighting to the death in their hearts. Anyone who retreats without a fight will be killed. Daphne also glanced at the huge battleship pressing overhead, her face turned cold, and she used the communication device to shout in the ears of all her subordinates. The beings in the Earth City were all shocked. Maybe the next moment, they will still escape and abandon the Earth City easily, but since the battle has reached this point, even if they escape now, they will definitely be hunted down by the police in the future, and even with the intervention of interstellar civilization, Their future will be gloomy. You don't have to worry, the assassin has a way to deal with the incoming enemy, we just need to block those aircraft. De Funes' words again made those life experts shocked again. Lord Daphne actually said, Lord Assassin has a way. The only powerful single life form that can fight against space battleships is the Starry Sky class. They all looked at the big Mosquito who was still fighting with the sheriff's aircraft with shocked expressions. At this moment, the big Mosquito's performance was tepid. Although it was extremely efficient in killing enemies, the strength displayed was not at the level of a Starry Sky powerhouse. Starry Sky level life forms have always existed on this planet, so the powerful life forms in Earth City all know how powerful the real Starry Sky level is. Although the current Assassin Master's strength is absolutely strong, there is definitely a huge gap between him and the Biochemical Empire's commander, Ula Master, and the Osta gunslinger, Odawa. But Miss Daphne will never say something out of tune, so at this moment, the life forms in Earth City are all staring at Jia Yan, who is constantly fighting in the sky. So this is the backup plan of the sheriffs, an Osta star battleship. Jia Yan noticed the approaching 200-meter warship in the sky much earlier than others. In his heart, he felt neither sadness nor joy for this existence. After all, he had already prepared for the worst in the past, so at this moment, even if the strongest men from the major warring countries came, he would not look horrified. At this time, it was just a 200-meter class warship arriving. Jia Yan believes that there is no need to be too surprised. After all, he had already tried a 500-meter battleship gunfire before, and the taste was indeed extremely sour. But it also made him understand that his defense against Starry Sky class battleships was also extremely powerful. Last time we were able to fight against the 500-meter class warships, so what comes this time is only the 200-meter class. Is there any reason why they can't fight against them? But it won't work if he is suppressed like this and continues to cause damage to Earth City. In this case, the sparkle in Jia Yanfu's eyes finally bloomed to an unprecedented level at this moment. At this moment, his momentum suddenly became extremely powerful, and it seemed that the power that had been hidden had finally exploded. Since none of those powerful Starry Sky level people have come over, they obviously still don't take me seriously. Then I don't have to worry about them coming to attack after I explode my strength, so at this moment, I can explode to my 100% hundreds of strength. Buzz 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 buzz. A sudden and powerful momentum exploded in the battle circle. This momentum was not unscientific, but Jia Yan suddenly improved the strength of his body at all levels, including brainwave strength, muscle strength, and defense. Power, as well as those more subtle levels of power. After these powers explode, it will cause the air and environment near his body to completely explode, with a feeling of increased momentum. At this moment, the big Mosquito has finally fully used his true strength. Boom 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 boom. An invisible shockwave spread out around Jia Yan's body. After waiting for so many days, the power finally burst out, trying to suppress the volcanic eruption for a long time, shaking the sky and the earth. It can be said that the color of the world changed. It is unbelievable. Because he has never used his full strength after the mutation, even Jia Yan himself does not know how powerful he is when he explodes with all his strength. The reason why he was unwilling to explode before was because he also understood that the adjective all in one go is also extremely applicable to the battle of the strong. Especially for a powerful being like him who has just reached this level, the first full-out explosion cannot be done in a kind of way. If used at an extremely important moment, it would be like punching cotton, and it would not be a good thing for future development. Therefore, before, he did not show his full strength to those opponents who were not strong. But now facing a 200-meter super battleship, he felt it was time. After all, that is a space battleship. Boom 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 boom. A powerful shockwave spread, and the incredibly powerful force pushed away the two sheriff aircraft that were trying to attack near Jia Yan. They seemed to hit an invisible wall and fought in mid-air. After several spins, he finally came to a halt in a state of embarrassment. Boom 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 boom. This. The strong men in the Earth City below all showed expressions of shock. As Skyrim powerhouses, they are already extremely powerful, but now when they see the assassin who was originally thought to be not a starry sky level, now he has increased his momentum like a storm, and even several aircrafts, the attacks and blows on his body were as if they were being tickled and had no effect. Finally, they all showed expressions of disbelief. Crazy. The world is crazy. Their assassin master actually raised his momentum to sky level. That's starry sky level. Every stomp of your feet can make the entire starry sky tremble. Each one can resist the existence of space battleships. The weakest starry sky level, those are the big guys of one party. They have gone through countless life and death battles and become famous throughout the starry sky before they can reach the starry sky level with incomparable difficulty. No matter how powerful his talent is, no matter how powerful he is as a diplomat from the Satsuma Temple of the Biochemical Empire, it is impossible to be promoted to the starry sky level casually without going through tragic battles and experiences. In a starry sky level, the weakest can fight against a large group of the strongest Skyrim experts. That is a quality gap that Skyrim cannot fight against at all. But all of these are not big problems. The biggest problem is they have no idea how this Lord Assassin could be a starry sky level. No life form knows his origin, and no life form knows what kind of battle this guy has gone through. As we all know, the starry sky level cannot be achieved by chance and creation. Only the battle of blood and fire can achieve it. There is a 1 in 10,000 chance of success, but how can this assassin, who was not famous before, reach the starry sky level? How could he be a starry sky level? The strong men in Earth City who observed it all couldn't figure it out, didn't understand, couldn't believe it, and even forgot about the battle. But compared to them, the sheriffs in the sheriff's aircraft were even more horrified. Starry sky level. How is it possible? This is impossible. When they saw the huge flying monster they were besieging and the Asta battleship rushing to rescue them, they immediately burst out with great strength. Finally, the momentum suddenly gained momentum and broke through the peak that ordinary strong men can reach, that is, breaking through the heaven level. After that, they directly reached the starry sky level. In each of the sheriff's aircraft, the sheriffs all uttered mutterings in horror. They couldn't help but be horrified. They must know that these peace officers are, in the final analysis, just small characters who provide temporary maintenance on warring planets. But at this moment, he actually learned that the bandit he was going to encircle and suppress suddenly transformed into a starry sky level powerhouse that could only appear in international situations. How can these little characters not be frightened by this? The police officers at this moment really feel more dull than the powerful people in Earth City. Don't be stupid, kill, as the strong men of Earth City stared at Jia Yan, who had almost raised his momentum to the top. De Funy shouted coldly, and the communicators they wore ringing. The appearance of this voice made the shocked Earth City powerhouses come to their senses one by one. No matter what they do, all they need to know is that the super strong man, this star-level existence, is the assassin on their side, and the master of the force who will protect them. The strongest person in his own force, of course, the stronger the better. They no longer care about why this assassin is a starry sky level question. At this moment, under the prompts of Daphne, they launched an even more crazy attack on the even more stunned sheriff aircraft. This time, they had no scruples about this attack. With the starry sky level as a foundation, even if the future is still uncertain, at least there is no longer any possibility of rising. After all, that is a starry sky level big shot who has the potential to influence the situation in the starry sky. Boom 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 boom. Suddenly, the stunned police aircraft suffered heavy losses under the attack of the Earth City's strong men. At this moment, the police officers finally reacted, and each one hurriedly launched resistance and counterattack. However, at this moment, their attacks became more aimless, just making mechanical movements. Generally, after all, facing a truly powerful Starry Sky class, there is no possibility of any resistance for them. The power of the Starry Sky level was beyond their imagination. Just by looking at the aircraft energy detection system that was making crazy alarms, these police officers knew that it was only a matter of time before the powerful assassin on the other side reached him. But they still have one biggest secret, and the only backup plan, the Asta space battleship approaching above their heads. That's right. The Starry Sky class can at best fight against space battleships. This Lord Assassin does not seem to be a powerful Starry Sky class. You must know that the Starry Sky class also has strong and weak distinctions. If he is just a weak Starry Sky class, he may be defeated by this 200-meter high Starry Sky class. It's possible to kill a super battleship. We still have a chance to win. Fight back. Fight back. When the sheriff was commanding the aircraft, the commander-in-chief looked crazy. As an Asta native, this commander absolutely believed in the power of his own warship. At this moment, he was like a drowning man who found a straw, and he hurriedly used this to comfort his subordinates. Each aircraft is issuing an emergency alarm. Most of these peace officers are technical personnel in operation. Each aircraft only has one or two possible experts, and even fewer are at the sky level. So facing the Starry Sky at this moment, the blow of super powerful brainwave power is simply irresistible. Yes, the brainwave power of Jia Yan's body had reached its peak at this moment. This invisible power violently swept away all the enemies in the aircraft in a shockwave-like manner. Fortunately, today's combat weapons all have defensive shields. This defensive shield can not only defend against physical attacks, but also defend brainwave power very well. However, with Jia Yan's level of brainwave power, the defensive shield is also very effective. We can only protect those ordinary life forms from death. At this moment, every life form, those who are closer are holding their own heads and rolling around crazily, in agony. Fortunately, Jia Yan's main opponent is not them at all, so at this moment he is just using his explosion to have some impact on these police officers. His main focus is still on the powerful battleship above the sky level. At the same time as Jia Yan exploded with power, the space battleship in the sky was like a snow-beaten warrior, steadily and slowly descending. Even though Jia Yan's explosive power was detected by the opponent, it still did not waver at all. He just continued to press forward with overwhelming force. At the same time, the main gun port on it also adjusted, and gradually aimed towards Jia Yan's direction. More small cannons were also aimed at the powerful monster like Jia Yan. In the Starry Sky, the only ones who dare to attack and target a Starry Sky level powerhouse are space battleships. Bring it on. Jia Yan was also full of fighting spirit. He flapped his wings. While vibrating his wings, he used a careful trick. The peace officer aircraft around his body were blown by the fierce wind of his flight, and suddenly, under the pressure of the enhanced brainwave power, several approaching aircraft suddenly fell to the ground like dumplings, becoming a feast for the Earth City warriors. At the same time, Jia Yan unfolded his body and took off towards the space battleship that seemed slow but was actually extremely fast. He wants to take the initiative to face the enemy and use Earth City as the main battlefield. This is obviously not a wise move. A powerful life form is approaching, and it is predicted that it will reach a Starry Sky level individual. Warning, a powerful life form is approaching. In the space battleship above, mechanical and cold alarms kept sounding. Sure enough, it's a Starry Sky level. It's really tricky. I thought I was just coming down to have fun, but I didn't expect to encounter such a powerful individual. It's a huge trouble for me to just play. Among the 200-meter class battleships, a famous Austro-regular army soldier stands proudly in the battleship position. Even if he faces a starry sky-level strongman, all the characters, including those ordinary, none of the star soldiers had any horrified expressions. They came here fighting each and every starry sky class. Even this space battleship once had a head-on battle with the Lord Ula of the Biochemical Empire. Now it is facing an energy detector whose feedback is far from the individual of Lord Ula. How can there be any panic expression? Although this starry sky-level monster is a starry sky-level monster, it is obviously just an individual who has just been promoted. It's hard to say that today we are going to make one of the biggest military exploits in the history of the Grey and Yellow Star Military Department, to strangle a starry sky-level powerhouse. Got it? A group of space battleship commanders sitting on the command bridge of the battleship looked at the large mosquitoes that were constantly attacking in the holographic image. A commander at the top made a faint voice. Kill the Starry Sky class. If you find errors in chapter content, please report it and we will fix it as soon as possible. For more exciting content, please pay attention to Novel Network's new domain name. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 458. Kill the Starry Sky class. A commander of the Asta battleship stared at the flying monster on the screen that exuded an astonishing and dangerous aura. They did not feel any danger. In their sight, it seemed that this was a huge metal. Kill a starry sky-level powerhouse. What a huge temptation this is. As an inconspicuous individual in the Gray-Yellow Star battleship, these officers all know that if they can kill a starry sky-level monster, even if the monster has no reputation before, they can kill it. That is definitely an incredible feat. If it can be done, from now on, all the personnel of their warship, the commanders and the young soldiers will rise through the ranks, and their status will be elevated to an unimaginable level. The commanders who heard what the captain said all had red eyes and stared at the flying monster on the screen. So can they do it? Absolutely a chance. By reading the data transmitted from the brain, they discovered that although the surface data of this flying monster reached the starry sky level in all aspects, it was still at the bottom of the starry sky level, that is, it looked like a newly promoted starry sky level monster. If they could kill this monster while it was still not strong enough, this was something their space battleship could possibly do. Commander Asta, whose name and appearance are similar to those from Earth, is extremely excited at this moment. Okay. Try your best to kill him, an excited deputy shouted with a red face. Killing a starry sky class, even if it is a starry sky class that seems to have just been promoted, the honor is extremely tempting. A 200-meter class battleship like them only dares to think of the newly promoted starry sky class. Huh? This battleship is also coming towards me. It's really just targeting me. Jia Yan saw the space battleship flying in the sky. At this moment, it made a U-turn and pursued him in the direction he was flying. It suddenly dawned on me. Since the other party was pursuing him, he also turned slightly, and while rising into the air, he became further away from the Earth City. After all, if a war breaks out, no one knows whether it will affect the people in Earth City. Boom 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 boom. The battle above the Earth City became more intense. Life forms on the ground fled frantically, crying and roaring. The voices were hoarse. Some of the sheriff's aircraft that were not intercepted by strong people flew towards those who were not strong enough. Ordinary life forms gave chase. Red light was shining everywhere. These self-proclaimed peace officers were strangulating their lives at this moment, and they showed no mercy. After all, this was already a war. Those members who belonged to Earth City were their enemies at this moment, and they did not spare any mercy. Hands on possibility. Lulu, run, the figures of the two children were not conspicuous in the fleeing army. They had no possessions and were lighter and more flexible than many of the living beings who had to carry their families and belongings with them. It was a very magical escape to the forest near the edge of Earth City. The scenery of Guangzhou behind had been completely swallowed up by the fire. The houses in the entire Earth City that had not been built for a long time began to collapse piece by piece. Some chariots that had no time to deform also became fragments and burned in the fire. Lulu didn't know how many tears she had shed, but every time she saw the scenery behind her, she thought of the dead lives, and the road she cleaned every day was becoming dilapidated at this moment, but the crystal tears kept rolling down. She staggered and was held by Kagra's little hand. The two of them climbed hard to the outskirts of Guangzhou. Some people continued to run towards the desert, wanting to leave Earth City forever, while others gathered in this fire-free area. There is no place that the sheriff's aircraft can take care of for the time being. Lulu and Kajia also stopped. These two children, who have nothing to live on, will die if they leave this Guangzhou, so they will not run away. Kaga, I'm so scared. Lulu was trembling all over. As a young orphan, she had experienced a lot, but this was the first time she saw such a terrifying war scene. Still extremely frightened. Don't be afraid. I will protect Lulu. Kajia showed the demeanor of a little man and hugged Lulu tightly. At the same time, he watched vigilantly at the life forms around him who were fleeing together. He knew that at this time, the original partners will no longer be partners. However, facing two children who brought nothing with them, it was impossible for these alien beings to attack because it would be meaningless. Boom boom boom. The sounds of battle above the sky continued. A strong man from Earth City was fighting with the sheriff's aircraft in the air. Without the help of the mosquitoes, their situation suddenly became difficult. But fortunately, in the Guangzhou that had turned into a sea of flames, hundreds of lights of various colors were shooting out from covertly, delaying the sheriff's aircraft, making the comparison of strength between the two sides at least temporary. Balance it out. Those artillery fires hiding deep in the earth existed before. Not only did Daphne not destroy them, but they even more than doubled on that basis. At this moment, these powerful artillery fires were under the control of the urgently assembled Earth Army members. It really played a huge role. No matter how short the operation time is, this place is still the home base of Earth City. Especially under the management of the woman Daphne, the defense here is still very terrifying. The assassin is a Starry Sky class. Now it depends on the outcome of his battle with the Asta warship. If he returns, the sheriff's aircraft army will inevitably retreat. Several members of the fleeing Earth City who knew the general trend were hiding on the edge of Guangzhou, looking at the distant night scene. That was the direction the big Mosquito flew away before. When a Starry Sky class fights a space battleship, no one knows the outcome. After all, an ordinary Starry Sky class can only fight against a space battleship. If they do not retreat, they may die in battle. However, no one knows how strong Jia Yan's fighting power is. Even Daphne has no idea about this. She only knows that if she cannot defeat her, then the big Mosquito will definitely not abandon her, or in other words, it is impossible for the Mosquito to give up the method she has to quickly return to the Earth. Bang! A graceful figure in the sky nimbly dodged a red light that was bombarded by it. On the way to avoid it, with a twist of the waist, he pulled the gun in his hand and hit the aircraft not far away with one shot. With the hit, the aircraft inexplicably lost most of its defensive power. It was attacked by a powerful life form from the nearby Earth City and crashed and was destroyed. This time in the battle, I was too careless. The spy I installed didn't even notice the actions of the city's police officers on such a large scale. Daphne glanced at the town below that had become a sea of flames in annoyance, feeling extremely depressed. She is not a compassionate person, but she has put so much effort into it and turned it into a sea of fire because of a negligence. No one can bear this kind of thing. Fortunately, the most important supplies are underground and will not be affected for the time being. As for whether they can be saved next, it still depends on whether the giant Mosquito can defeat the space battleship. Otherwise, not only supplies, but also lives, whether we can keep it or not is a question. Daphne cast her gaze to the distant horizon. Dozens of kilometers away from the more than 5,000-foot tall sky, the big Mosquito and the intimidating transcendent space battleship were already quickly approaching. The war is about to break out. Must win. With a thought in her mind, Daphne gave a sweet shout and launched another attack. Jia Yan also understood that he was the one who attracted the most attention. During his flight, he had already raised his body's strength to the peak of peaks. Boom boom boom. The sound of the wind around you is different from that of the earth, and the different scenery, when you feel it at an altitude of 5,000 meters, has an extraordinary meaning. At this moment, Jia Yan seemed to have returned to the past on Earth, when he had an extremely joyful attitude towards flying. At that time, he had a kind of love from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, Jia Yan found that he had that wonderful feeling again, and the reason for this feeling was because his flying speed at this moment had once again reached a new peak. It's an amazing feeling. He couldn't even tell whether he was flying or swimming. He felt as if he had turned into a fish that could swim in the air. Everything was so refreshing. Even this feeling cannot be measured by speed. He knows that he can now exceed the speed of sound 20 or even 30 times. But this feeling cannot be described by speed. Enjoyable, extremely free. Suddenly. The sounds he felt next to his body became softer. Jia Yan didn't know if other people's ears sounded so quiet when he was flying. However, he himself felt a kind of tranquility at this extreme speed. But this tranquility was broken by a huge metal monster that appeared above the head. Space battleship. Jia Yan looked at it. Although I have seen a 500-meter class space battleship before, and even experienced one of its main gunfires, this is the first time I have seen it so close. This alien battleship, with a length of 200 meters from head to tail, looked like an incredible building at this time, flying in the sky blocking out the sun. If this kind of warship appeared on the Earth, it would definitely be huge news, and even the whole world would be turbulent. But among all the space battleships, it is just a small battleship. Colorful lights shine around the ship. Each of these lights has its own meaning. Some are for detecting light waves, and some are for lighting or special purposes. The hull of the ship is illuminated by these lights, and it is beautiful. If it were not an enemy, Jia Yan might even praise it. But no matter how advanced and beautiful this battleship is, it will still be my enemy on the way home. There was a sparkle in Jia Yanfu's eyes. The distance between the two is extremely close. One goes from bottom to top, the other goes from top to bottom, flying relative to each other. A body is only about 30 meters long, but with its wings spread, it can cover an area of 60 or 70 meters. Even if the 6 legs are stretched out, they can hug something more than 100 meters away. The other is more than 200 meters long, and its whole body is made of metal. It has a strong sci-fi aesthetic and looks like an invincible killer. They are about to make first contact. Things that dare to stand in front of me, just fight, that's it. War. Boom 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 boom. The big Mosquito charged crazily towards the huge, bloated metal battleship. Buzz. At the same time, the small cannons protruding from the left and right sides of the battleship above us finally opened up full fire towards the path Jia Yan was attacking. Boom boom boom. Dozens of purple-red rays of light bombarded from around the battleship. Smoke filled the air, and the entire battleship retreated slightly due to the recoil of the small gunfire. And these dozens of rays of light are all targeting big mosquitoes flying crazily in the sky. Although he was extremely confident in his defensive abilities, Jia Yan couldn't just consume his defensive power casually. At this moment, the wings and brainwave power suddenly moved together. Jia Yan's body turned in the air, dodging most of the light, and at the same time withstood almost 10 red light attacks. Immediately aroused the reaction of the body's defense force, traces of blue appeared on the surface of the body, but fortunately it did not appear to an extremely conspicuous degree, which proved that such attacks could not bring him any substantial harm. Very good. The level of this kind of attack may not be much different from the main gun of the metal building in the past. Now I can ignore it completely. Jia Yan's body rolled rapidly in the air. This was the red light. The extremely terrifying attack power bombarded his body like this. At the same time, the explosion caused by 10 red lights in the air turned the entire sky into a sea of fire. A huge mushroom cloud appeared in the sky. The body of the big mosquito was hidden in this mushroom cloud, and the body could not be seen at all. If it were on Earth, the power of this mushroom cloud might be similar to that of a small nuclear bomb. It was simply terrifying. This is just the opponent's ordinary artillery attack, and it may not even be the maximum energy of this artillery group. Well done, this flying monster didn't suffer any damage at all. In the battleship above, the Asta soldiers with the fire control system immediately let out a soft cry of surprise. You must know that the attack of this artillery fire group can easily kill even the peak level beings. Even though it is just the most basic attack method of this space battleship, it is a space battleship after all, and it can even kill the peak level beings. If the body cannot be easily killed, then it cannot be called a space battleship. Don't be careless, this is a star-level monster. Comparing him with a sky-level waste is just asking for death, another fleet soldier in the fire control system warned in a cold voice. I know that the starry sky level cannot be that simple, but he is not injured at all, which is really surprising. The former fire control system soldier laughed indifferently. Although he knew that the other party was a starry sky level flying monster, he still did not take this monster seriously at this moment. He just stared at the display screen, where the monster's figure contained a series of data. The data there showed that this flying monster was only at the lowest level among starry sky level powerful beings in terms of strength, control, and even defense judgment. It can be said to be the weakest starry sky level. How could this soldier care about the power of this monster? Although it could withstand their first wave of attacks, what about the following ones? If you keep carrying it and can't fight back, there will always be a time when you die. The latter soldier who reminded him also smiled helplessly after finishing his words. In fact, this soldier did not think that this so-called starry sky level monster could pose any threat to them. Keep shooting. If you can kill it with the minimum amount of artillery fire, that's the best. Keep shooting. An order was sent from the command module. Each of these fire control soldiers did not dare to neglect. With their fingers flying, they performed a series of locking and firing preparations on the fire control button. A fire control system requires an extremely large number of soldiers and operators. The weakest starry sky class, they feel that even with the lowest level of artillery coverage attack, they can kill it directly. Click, click, click. The dozens of gun barrels continued to move at this moment, aiming at the looming giant mosquito body in the flames all over the sky. Boom 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 boom. The big mosquito was bathed in the surrounding flames, and he felt like he was in the middle of a rampage. The temperature of the surrounding flames made his blue defense power more visible, and his body became even bluer. It is indeed a space battleship. A single salvo of artillery fire can be so terrifying. But these guys may not have thought that my defense power could not be destroyed by just this attack. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed, and his wings stirred up after his body was hit by gunfire several times. After that, without any injuries, he flew diagonally in the sea of fire and continued to fly towards the space battleship. It's not good for me to stay at a distance all the time, Beidusuan. After all, I don't have long-distance attack methods, so I have to get close first. Boom 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 boom. The sound of another salvo sounded in the sky. The attack of the 200-meter space battleship is coming again. I'm already flying at least 20 times the speed of sound on Earth, but their salvos are still very accurate. Obviously, my speed is still too slow for these space battleships. Jia Yan found that the small fire coming from the opposite side was the artillery attacks were extremely precise, and some of them even calculated some of his escape routes and blocked those routes. This volume is over. Tomorrow will be a new volume with a new plot. I hope everyone can subscribe and support Bulletin U. Thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 459. A new volume with a new atmosphere. Please subscribe to the official version. Thanks to the brothers of 9-angled pupils for giving away chapters again. Thinking about it, after all, these warships are fighting in the universe. They may face some more flexible and faster enemy warships. If they can't even achieve this level of shooting accuracy, how can they possibly fight in the universe? Win the battle? But things are not absolute. The closer they are, the more difficult it is for the opponent to aim. After all, they are close, and their relatively small flexibility is reflected. Jia Yan does not believe that when he is close to the opponent, their attacks can still be so accurate. So the next goal is to get close to the opponent. Phew. Phew. The body that jumped up was severely hit by 2 red rays of light in the air. Very good, this time I was only hit by 2 rays of light, and the brainwave power blocked it for a moment, so that my body could not retreat at all. Jia Yan's speed was only slightly blocked by the opponent's second salvo, and then he used his wings and brainwave power together to rush upward even faster. Asshole! How could that salvo just now be ineffective? Keep attacking. If that doesn't work, increase the energy of the artillery fire. The command cabin of the space battleship roared with anger. Turn left. Retreat at the same time. If you can't get close to us, this guy without long-range attack means will be a moving target for us. Boom 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 boom. The shuttle-shaped body of the 200-meter class space battleship rose rapidly, and then streaks of red fire shot out along the small gun ports. Jia Yan turned quickly in the air. Because he was closer and he made his speed change from left to right, from fast to slow, the red light came from the shot. Only one hit him. A large ball of flame suddenly appeared in front of him, and the terrifying red light exploded. Jia Yan felt that his body was bathed in the flames. The surrounding temperature reached thousands of degrees Celsius, and the blue defense became more clear and conspicuous. If it weren't for the azure defense, even if his body had mutated to its current level, it would definitely not be able to completely withstand such temperatures. It will definitely result in burns or even death. But there is no if, there is no blue defense. Jia Yan would never be able to grow to where he is now. All these are the strengths he possesses. If there are so many ifs, then it is impossible for him to survive until now. Even now, his greatest confidence is still the azure defense. This mutated defensive constitution derived from the star condensation has been a powerful weapon that has accompanied him in battles, and now it finally shines with brilliance. Boom 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 boom. The bombardment overhead continued. At this moment, Jia Yan seemed to see the scene where the faces of the soldiers in the battleship finally changed when repeated attacks failed to injure him. His body once again followed the previous route, constantly weaving in and out of the red light gunfire. It's like the carp swimming upstream, advancing bravely against the rapids. His body and mind are still very capable of understanding combat. At this moment, after dodging several large-scale attacks by red light artillery fire, I gradually gained some experience. A spiraling turn. Jia Yan chose a tricky angle, dodged another round of gunfire, and got closer to the retreating space battleship. Very good. I have gradually gained some experience in avoiding this kind of red light. In addition, it becomes more difficult for the opponent to aim after getting closer. Now I have the possibility of attacking, Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed coldly. In the battleship above, a fire control soldier was extremely surprised. The reason is that this flying monster's ability to learn in battle is so powerful. Although most people know that the existence of a starry sky level, although the superficial data also accounts for the vast majority of strength, if the starry sky level has strong combat experience. That is also a force that cannot be ignored. At this time, each of them felt that Jia Yan was not accustomed to starry sky level energy, but he had the potential to grow rapidly. They don't know that this is the combat learning ability that Jia Yan had to hone. It has been so long since he was reborn, and every battle and mutation happened not long ago. This made him unable to help but squeeze out his potential, especially in battle, mutating again and again, and facing more powerful opponents and powerful threats again and again. This makes him unlike other powerful individual combat units in the starry sky, which has a lot of time to hone combat experience at one level, and then launches a breakthrough towards the next powerful level. Every time he mutates and becomes stronger, it is a difficult process of crossing the river by feeling for the stones. Under such circumstances, he still has countless enemies and countless dangers waiting for him. If after every mutation, if he couldn't quickly adapt to his own fighting power and the feeling of fighting at that time, then he would definitely be the one who died. So much so that this self-squeezing potential still exists today. When other starry sky levelers may have just reached starry sky level, they need a lot of training and fighting before they can quickly adapt to their new powers and fighting methods, but he is different. He has always had to face new battles and dangers after mutating, but he can quickly learn on his own during battles and quickly adapt to his mutated and powerful body. Perhaps this is another extremely powerful advantage of Jia Yan as an individual, in addition to his blue defense. At this moment, it is time for it to bloom its glory again. Impossible. This monster has actually mastered our shooting pattern. Quick. Adjust the hormonal code process to change the shooting pattern. There is no way he can master it again so quickly. Someone among the fire control soldiers above yelled in disbelief. The efficiency of the soldiers was extremely high. Within a second, the subtle patterns of red light shooting were changed, and the rays of artillery fire that came out one after another seemed to have become another style. Boom! The big Mosquito's body was already close to the space battleship, but at the next moment, it was hit hard by about 10 red rays of light that were suddenly shot out. Hey! These artillery fires can actually change the shooting pattern. Jia Yan immediately noticed the changes above, which surprised him greatly. The blue color in his body is even more conspicuous. And at this moment, he was once again in a state of embarrassment due to the bombardment of 10 artillery fires. In the flames that filled the sky, he had to be pushed back and retreated at least 500 meters, once again distancing himself from the space battleship. But his body is still intact. It won't work once. Just do it again. Anyway, I have mastered their general rules, so it is good to treat this battle as a learning experience. Jia Yan continued to flap his wings with great determination, and raised his head to attack the space battleship above. Get up. Activate medium power artillery fire, and at the same time be prepared to resist the impact. In addition, try to distance yourself from the opponent as much as possible to prepare for the launch of the main gun. In the space battleship, the command module, which had been silent all this time, issued a cold order, originally to get to know this starry sky class. They had just gotten close to their opponent, but they already understood almost everything. Next, was the true horror of the space battleship. Under the cover of the red light shots, 3 cannon barrels that were larger than the small cannons quietly poked out of the space battleship. These 3 gun barrels are like the terrifying black holes that suck people. Each one has a diameter of about 7 meters. Compared with the continuous firing, a small artillery fire with a diameter of only 3 meters is not of the same level at all. Jia Yan was not aware of the scene at all. At this moment, he was still immersed in the feeling of fighting a space battleship. He was studying hard, not only how to adapt to today's starry sky-level body, but also how to adapt to it. Deal with powerful space battleships. Because he felt that he would definitely have to deal with similar things in the future. And just when Jia Yan once again quickly grasped the new artillery fire coverage attack pattern, the sense of crisis in his mind suddenly issued a shocking warning to him. How? When he was stunned for a moment, Jia Yan saw that among the space battleships in front of him, 3 of them were far more powerful than small cannons. The huge cannon barrel, which contained more terrifying energy, suddenly shot out a bright red light at him. With no time to resist, Jia Yan immediately realized that his body had been hit hard by something extremely powerful and terrifying. The azure defense surged out almost as soon as the warning appeared. Jia Yan found that he had no time to prepare, and even his brainwave power had no time to think of defense. Then he was hit by the light. Although they are all rays of light, the rays of light of these starry sky battleships are not real rays of light. They may be pure laser weapons. Even these starry sky civilizations cannot achieve great power, so the light attacks they use almost all have some entities that don't know the principle can't emit light as fast as real light. Jia Yan was used to the speed of the previous small artillery fire, but now the medium power artillery fire was so close that he had no time to react. But Jia Yan only felt that the trace of brainwave power he had mentioned was like a bubble, being smashed by the artillery fire. Then the power of the artillery fire hit his body and exploded at the same time. Boom! Jia Yan found that his azure defense did not have enough time to defend himself. A trace of exoskeleton fragments spread out from the dark blue surface. In less than a second, it was vaporized and turned into dust in the air. He actually suffered a little bit of damage. Boom 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 boom. If viewed from the outside, the impact of this medium power artillery fire was not just a trace. 3 thick red lights shot out, and then bombarded the seemingly huge thing, but it looked thin against the space battleship. On the body of a mosquito. Then an incredible explosion occurred. Between heaven and earth, a round red sun appeared. It illuminates hundreds of miles around. It made the Earth city dozens of kilometers away tremble. As the 3 attacks exploded, terrifying shockwaves raged in the air. This combat power that should have appeared in the starry sky now occurred on the ground, sweeping away the yellow sand on the ground. The earth shook, and a figure actually appeared in the plains. A huge pit. You know, that was a battle that took place at an altitude of 5,000 meters, and it still caused such terrible ripples on the earth. Lulu, when the shockwave reached the Earth city dozens of kilometers away, Kajia jumped forward and protected Lulu from behind. The 2 children only felt the strong wind blowing in front of them. The fierce wind made even the woods where they were hiding rustle and move. Flying sand and rocks are constantly flying. You must know that this is a battle dozens of kilometers away. Even the ground dozens of kilometers away has such terrifying sights. It shows what a terrifying battle this is. That's the scary thing about space battleships. Kaga. I'm so scared. Lulu held her head, her big eyes full of tears. The 2 children were trembling as they looked at the battle above Earth City and the even more terrifying battle seen dozens of kilometers away, completely speechless. Not only them, but also the slightly more powerful Earth City members saw such a terrifying scene at this moment. The fleeing Earth City members were also extremely horrified. Some of them were well-known beings in the small forces in the past. When they came to Earth City, they could only develop here as ordinary people. In the past, they might have felt a little uncomfortable, but after seeing the current situation is not uncomfortable at all. You must know that those who fought in the sky were almost 50 strong men in the Golden Desert. But these powerful men are now just like ordinary people. Just die. The battle taking place here in Earth City simply should not take place in the Golden Desert. It's completely beyond the level here. Boom 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 boom. At Jia Yan's place, This wave of medium-sized artillery attacks made the blue color of his body even more eye-catching. Now this monster will be seriously injured even if it doesn't die. The commander-in-chief also said that we need to extend the distance in order to launch the main gun, which is simply making a fuss. 2 more medium-sized artillery attacks will definitely kill him. Several fire control operators were chattering in the space battleship. At this moment, they had a clear understanding of the true strength of the flying monster, which was simply unable to resist their space battleship. As long as they fire a few more medium-sized artillery pieces, their feat of strangling a Starry Sky class today will definitely be successful. Don't be careless, that's the Starry Sky class. Do you know how terrifying the Starry Sky class is? The scolding from the command module came from the communicator. How did the fire control soldiers know that the command module was eavesdropping on their conversation? At this moment, they all became speechless. And in the command module of the space battleship, the elite commanders in that row were sitting on chairs, all staring at the place filled with flames of war. Most of them thought that the flying monster, even if it was a Starry Sky level monster, would definitely not be able to survive. However, at this time, their commander-in-chief was still extremely solemn, and he obviously saw something. At this moment, they were all silent, and no one said that they had won. Even in this situation of suppressing the opponent, their battleship was still retreating towards the rear. At the same time, the main gun is ready to attack. As for the confusion of his subordinates, the senior official, as the commander-in-chief, had no way to explain it at this moment. If it were a different commander, he would probably be cheering for victory at this time, because under such circumstances, the Starry Sky level flying monster must be extremely tired even if it is not seriously injured. To know the true power of their artillery fire, it has not been fully demonstrated yet. If the opponent cannot get close to your side, then even if you fight a protracted war, you will always be able to kill the opponent. But the commander-in-chief didn't think so. Because he has a piece of information from the Slogo civilization. The Slogo civilization is here on the gray and yellow star. In addition to the warring countries and the Ruland civilization, it is another powerful civilization that can station space battleships. In the past, this civilization also used the reason that its civilization had interests in the gray and yellow star, so the gray-yellow star is in constant conflict with several other interstellar civilizations. And the information he got from the Slogo civilization was that it was a 500-meter class space battleship of theirs. It was also the only 500-meter class battleship of their civilization in this Shoals galaxy, and a previous battle record. According to his intelligence, the Slogo civilization had previously discovered a UFO flying from the center of the gray-yellow star in its defense area. After all, it was passing through the area under their jurisdiction. This battleship immediately rose up to attack. But what surprised the Naslogo civilized battleship was that it turned out to be an unprecedented Starry Sky level flying monster. As a 500-meter class battleship, it definitely has the firepower to defeat an ordinary Starry Sky class battleship. At that time, the Slogo civilization did not have much concern about which side the other party belonged to. Invading their territory without notification was a declaration of war. Practice, so their main guns opened fire. What happened next was far beyond the expectations of all members of the Slogo civilization. Because the powerful flying monster was indeed shot down by them, but before it fell into the unpredictable range, the battleship's detector had already discovered that the opponent did not suffer much damage. You know, that is a 500-meter class battleship. Although the Osta people think that their warships are definitely more powerful than the Slogo civilization's warships, no one would think that the main gun of one of their 200-meter class warships can compete with the Slogo civilization's 500-meter class warships. The main guns of Mi-class battleships are comparable. The commander-in-chief had not thought of this before he encountered Jia Yan, but after the opponent was attacked several times and was still unharmed, the intelligence memory he had buried deep appeared. Could this flying monster really be the flying monster that Slogo's civilization said? If so, it would be troublesome, because he can even defend the main gun of the 500-meter class battleship, and our 200-meter class battleship will probably not be able to break through his defenses. Whether it is or not, we still need to keep the distance as far as possible at this time. Even if we lose some accuracy and power of the attack, we still have to extend it to more than 10 kilometers before bombarding with the main gun. Otherwise, it will be very dangerous in every aspect. The commander-in-chief of the 200-meter class battleship thought so much in this short moment, and then his face became calm. Some book friends say that I only have one update, but one update is more than 5,000 words, which is equivalent to 2 updates by others. This is also the opinion raised by some book friends in the past that only 5,000 chapters are included if you want to read 2 updates. My chapter costs 2,500 words, but it's still 5,000, and it's separated, so it's uncomfortable for everyone, right? Sorry. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 460. The commander-in-chief of the 200-meter class battleship was thinking calmly in his heart at this moment. Even if the opponent is the one who can defend the main gun of the 500-meter class battleship, as long as they are careful, they will always be invincible. As for why, that is the reason why many starry sky-level powerhouses, even if they have the strength to kill space battleships, are still unable to threaten any space battleship, because their speed is too slow. At this moment, these 200-meter class battleships are inside the gray-yellow star, and it is impossible to reach the speed that can only be achieved in the universe. However, when the anti-gravity system is turned on, it can still easily reach a speed of more than 50 times the speed of sound, which means it can move 17 kilometers in 1 second. This kind of speed is simply not something that an ordinary starry sky class can achieve. This is still their instant start-up speed. If there is a speed bonus, after a period of time, it will be possible to increase the speed to 100 or 200 times the speed of sound on Earth. The battleship launched attacks frantically while retreating to the rear. The operators inside were extremely confident that even a flying monster known for its speed would not be able to catch up with the battleship. Bear, 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 bear. In the raging flames, a pair of shining compound eyes suddenly appeared in the flames. The big mosquito seemed to be covered in fire. The ferocious explosive power completely stimulated his body's defense. At this moment, he no longer looked as dark as before, but was filled with a kind of blue, and the blue defense was fully reflected. Got it? Puff. With a swing of his wings, he broke through the flames, and his speed suddenly increased slightly. Even if it did not reach the terrifying speed of more than 10 kilometers per second of the space battleship, it definitely reached more than 30 times the speed of sound. But this is too slow. Too slow. Too slow. Jia Yan never thought that his speed could be so slow. In front of that huge space battleship, he was like a baby who had just learned to fly, so pitifully slow. But he still pursued forward with a shining light in his eyes. Okay. In the battle over there, the space battleships we invited will definitely have the upper hand. We originally wanted to fight the space battleships. Only some powerful starry sky class can achieve it, and the rest will be a draw at most. This monster is so fast it's simply ridiculous to continue to chase after being suppressed. The commander who acted as the leader of all the sheriff's aircraft within the fighting range of Earth City sneered at this moment. In fact, he no longer cares about the battle situation in the Earth City in front of him. Most of his energy is focused on the battle between the distant space battleship and the giant Mosquito. Everyone knows it. No matter how fierce the battle here is, those two powerful beings can really determine the outcome of the war. The big Mosquito has already appeared the effects of insufficient combat experience. He kept chasing the space battleship in front of him. Although he seemed to be a monster much smaller than the space battleship, he was able to pursue the opponent aggressively, which seemed very tough. However, Anyone with a discerning eye could notice that the space battleship was retreating while launching attacks. The large Mosquito becomes unable to withstand attacks. There are always moments of failure. My speed is not as fast as the opponent's. Jia Yan's flying speed has reached about 35 times the speed of sound, which is already an extremely terrifying speed. During the battle, the two chased and fled. In a few seconds, they were over the Earth City again, and an instant later, and broke through the Earth City. Fight towards the grey forest in the distance. Jia Yan was extremely embarrassed. The space battleship in front fired red light while retreating. Those medium-power artillery fire probably took time to charge, so most of the attacks on Jia Yan were just those small artillery fires, but the saturation attacks again and again made Jia Yan appear. Feeling caught off guard. In front is the flight and retreat of the behemoth. But Jia Yan couldn't get close to the opponent. He knew that his biggest disadvantage was magnified to the limit in this battle. He doesn't have any long-range attacks. Boom 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 boom. Jia Yan did not give up the pursuit, and the space battleship in front was obviously able to escape Jia Yan's pursuit quickly. However, the opponent seemed to have figured out this tactic, and it was only 100 to 200 meters in front of Jia Yan. This distance can always make the strong think that it is within reach, but in fact, there is no way to close this short distance. Don't worry, I'm faster than that. Jia Yan urged himself slightly in his heart, knowing that his speed could still be improved. That's the feeling of silent flight before encountering the space battleship. This feeling of flying gave him great inspiration, that is, his understanding of speed reached another level at that time. What we have to do now is to embody that feeling in battle. This is not easy to do, and Jia Yan is hit by the red light of small artillery fire again and again. Even if he occasionally has a glimmer of inspiration, it will be interrupted quickly. If I can't increase my speed and defeat them, then no matter how powerful the blue defense is, my energy to activate the defense is not unlimited, and I will always be worn down by them. Jia Yan sighed in his heart, and he knew his true identity. Bottom line of strength. His strength may have really reached the starry sky level, but now he is still not a powerful starry sky level. All he can rely on is his strong defense. Just as Jia Yan was chasing the battleship, he was recalling the feeling of peaceful flight. I saw a thick muzzle with a diameter of about 12 or 13 meters on top of the space battleship in front of me, suddenly aimed in the direction of Jia Yan. Main gun. Not good, Jia Yan suddenly felt wary in his heart. The huge muzzle that poked out made him feel unbelievable at this moment. That kind of terrifying power may have been under the fire of the 500-meter space battleship he suffered a few days ago. Boo! Before Jia Yan could make an urgent evasive action, the 200-meter class space battleship that was so close at hand let out a thundering roar. A ball of red light as bright as the sun shot out from the muzzle of the huge main gun, illuminating the entire world. At that moment, there seemed to be a real sun in the sky. Some living beings who observed the scene on the desert ground even lost part of their visual organs and were blinded for a long time. The distance was too close, and the opponent's main gun had been prepared early. Under the sudden attack, Jia Yan had no time to dodge at all. For a moment, he felt that his body was being engulfed by an incomparable force. Hit hard. The unparalleled explosive force almost tore apart its exoskeleton, completely destroying it and turning it into an atomic state. Fortunately, before that, Jia Yan's whole body energy stirred up, and under the crisis of life and death, the blue defense was finally fully activated. The dazzling blue is displayed on the surface of the body. A huge crystal clear blue mosquito. It was as if the transparent emerald, bright and dazzling, appeared between heaven and earth at the moment of explosion. But no one could see Jia Yan's image, because he was completely attacked by the battleship's main gun, and then swallowed up by violent energy. It was impossible for other detection energy to detect his appearance. You can see the surging flames and explosion shock waves. The whole Earth trembled. In the Earth City not far away, one after another the sheriff's aircraft were affected by the shock wave and could not maintain their flight status. They hit the ground out of control. Even if part of them was not out of control, they were still shaky in the strong wind and unable to maintain balance. Several movements in this battle. This made ordinary living beings stunned. Even the so-called strong men of the Golden Desert were speechless at this moment and simply couldn't believe it. The scene is so grand. But the assassin is at a disadvantage. A powerful life form from Earth City saw the main gun of the space battleship over there and launched an attack. They all looked worried. Although they did not notice whether the big Mosquito was hit directly by the opponent's main gun, the fighting situation at this moment has reached its climax, and there is no room for them not to worry about the assassin. Of course, the reason for their worries is mostly for themselves. If the big Mosquito loses, then they will not be able to escape death. In the terrifying explosion shockwave, Jia Yan felt that his body was like a boat drifting in the wind, with huge energy tearing at his body all the time, if he did not have Azure defense. Or if Zanlin's defense were weaker, then the big Mosquito at this moment might actually be bombarded to death by the opponent's main cannon. Jia Yan was blown away by the impact. Huh! Suddenly, Jia Yan felt a sense of enlightenment in the state where he didn't need to fly by himself or even use any force. At this moment, he once again entered a strange state of time slows down. Everything around him seemed to become extremely slow. Through the slowly changing time, Jia Yan could see the shock waves around him and the surging flames flying continuously. The scenery that should have been roaring and sensational seemed very quiet to him at the moment. Quietly, the flames were like naughty fire snakes, scurrying around his body. From time to time, after touching the blue defense on the surface of his body, they disappeared into it and seemed to be absorbed. Jia Yan stared at these wonderful scenery, his body was still being bombarded, and the impact was like a cannonball, which was shot towards the back. But at this moment, the gleaming light in his compound eyes gradually became brighter and brighter. The sound of wind around, surrounding flames, and the moving hot air. Everything is so natural. But their current speed is also extremely fast. Jia Yan suddenly understood. In his previous flights, he used too much reluctance and too much anxiety. So much so that I always feel like I'm trying my best, but still can't fly too fast. Now feeling the natural shock waves around him and the aerodynamic fire snakes, the sparkle in his compound eyes became brighter and brighter. Suddenly, when Jia Yan's body was blasted several kilometers away, it was almost like a cannonball hitting the desert ground. Bang! A blast of arrogance, like a rocket explosion, exploded behind the Mosquito's body. That's his brainwave power. Jia Yan realized it. He clearly didn't use a lot of brainwave energy at this moment, but the powerful shockwave caused behind him still reached a terrifying level. He didn't think too much, he just followed the direction of those exploding fire snakes flying, and followed the imitation feeling, and fiercely released his explosive brainwave power in the opposite direction of the flying fire snakes. But the result was actually so terrifying. Jia Yan only felt that he, who was originally being blown back, actually flew upside down. His compound eyes. There was a kind of Gujing Bubo light flashing, and at this time he was more in a state of enlightenment. Wings flapping. The power of brain waves pushes the body. Fly. The space battleship in front of me, which was originally several kilometers away, was approaching very quickly under the cover of flames. Less than 2 seconds had passed since Jia Yan was hit by the battleship's main gun. But Jia Yan's body turned back and forth at this moment. Instead of retreating, he advanced instead. He arrived directly in front of the space battleship. Perhaps this is something that no one in the battleship could have imagined. Even most battleship soldiers. You should have thought that this starry sky-level flying monster had been completely destroyed by one of their main cannon attacks. But in fact, When Jia Yan's azure blue body finally broke through the flames, some of the soldiers and commanders in the battleship finally changed their faces, and there was shock in their eyes. The big mosquito at this moment has a body that is very in line with nature. It seemed that the surrounding flames were taking the initiative to make way for him, and the air behind him seemed to be pushing his body. Therefore, even if the big mosquito seemed to be just flying in a fluttering way at this time, if the speed was told, it would definitely scared everyone to death. Hide quickly. In the battleship, there are already soldiers with extremely fast hands, and combined with the intelligent brain program of automatic response, the emergency evasion capability of the battleship is activated. No one could have imagined that the big mosquito that was so slow before would actually become so fast now. It felt like flying. It has been directly upgraded to a level, and it is basically a powerful starry sky level that has mastered the secret of flying. In line with nature, it is an ability that needs to be mastered in the later stages of flying ability. However, this big mosquito has only just reached the starry sky level and realized this ability in battle. This shows Jia Yan's self-learning and understanding abilities. Absolutely outrageous. Boom 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 boom. The space battleship was retreating towards the rear at this moment, and the sirens in the ship were also blaring. That huge battleship was about to reach a terrifying speed of 50 times the speed of sound in an instant. But it's fast, and the azure blue monster that's speeding up in front is already hitting it, and it's even faster. The big blue mosquito, with a strange blue light on its head, seemed to turn into a hurricane that exceeded the speed of sound by an unknown amount. It was fast but felt light. The moment the battleship started to survey, it reached its target. Ahead. Quick. It is simply not a living thing like before. The giant mosquito's front legs, filled with blue light, were gently lifted up. There was still no joy or sadness in his heart. At this moment, he seemed to be constantly comprehending the natural feelings around him. In fact, if it weren't for the flames rising into the sky, guiding his movements, Jia Yan might not be able to truly it flies so naturally, not to mention it can't be so fast. After lifting his right front foot, Jia Yan's compound eyes turned completely blue. At this moment, he looked at the scenery in front of him. He was directly in front of the battleship. In front of you is a piece of transparent glass, giving you an unobstructed view of the interior. There were some humanoid creatures with frightened expressions on their faces. They were all extremely panicked at the moment. Some were reaching out to press certain buttons in front of them, while others were looking at the giant mosquito right in front of the glass with their mouths wide open. But only one person showed regret in his eyes. That is the commander-in-chief of this battleship. At this moment, this Asta soldier completely regrets it. He clearly knows that this flying monster may be the one that can withstand the bombardment of the main gun of the 500-meter class battleship, but at this time, he gave the order to attack him. At this moment, the big mosquito came to the front of their battleship and was about to attack. All of this can be said to be his responsibility. But no one knows all this. With a cold whistling sound, the big mosquito finally cut off its front foot. Phew! The sharp front end of the forefoot has already formed a knife shape. At this moment, the azure defense has reinforced it to be extremely sharp and strong. With the help of the brainwave power of the big mosquito, it is simply an incredible weapon. A faint membrane energy blocked in front of the front foot. But when the sharp and powerful knife-shaped horn was cut, there was a crisp cracking sound at the first moment. The entire battleship was shaking at this moment. Then there is the seemingly extremely strong battleship defensive armor. The blue light in the big mosquito's compound eyes became even brighter. Perhaps at this moment, his strength has been pushed to its limit. Ping! The first moment it cut into the battleship armor, a powerful reaction force was transmitted, but the faint blue knife-shaped horn actually erupted into a weirder blue color again at this moment. Chi! Sulfuric acid! The sharp wind continued to thrust forward along the front of the huge battleship. Squeak 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 squeak. The extremely powerful super body of the big Mosquito broke through the defense layer of the space battleship without any hindrance and penetrated inside. His pair of front feet seemed to be a terrifying existence that harvested life, and he began to slash wildly. Phew! 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 Blood splashed, and the human-like bodies were unable to resist at all, and were directly killed by the fast and powerful front feet. Jia Yan finally completely broke into the battleship. All die. He found that the defensive energy that had been resisting the power of his brain waves had completely disappeared after he broke through the outer defense of the battleship. At this moment, he finally roared madly. Brainwave power is fully activated. Bang 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 bang. Annoying, there is a problem with the network, the machine is still frozen and cannot be turned on in the middle of the night. I hold a laptop and run to the street to decipher the chapters published online. Bulletin you is so funny. 555, everything is for the sake of continuous updates. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 461. The heads of Osta people exploded one after another as if they had small bombs installed inside. Jia Yan's brainwave power is fully activated, and it is impossible for them to resist without the slightest defense. The internal defense of the space battleship is completely inferior to the surface defense. When Jia Yan used the power of brainwaves to kill those battleship commanders, his slender front feet were like never before. Click. His front foot pierced the inside of the battleship fiercely. The length of one front foot reached 50 or 60 meters, directly piercing the 50 or 60 meter battleship structure. At this moment, he discovered that under the power of his own brainwaves, an Osta man who seemed to have a high status actually resisted the power of his scattered brainwaves. He roared with blood all over his ears, nose, and eyes, and raised a pistol. Things want to attack him. Bang! At the next moment, the power of Jia Yan's brainwaves suddenly increased, and the man's eyes were stunned, and then he fell down without any strength. This person was the commander-in-chief of this battleship. At this moment, he could not have imagined that when he received this order, the whole ship was excited, thinking that he could take this opportunity to rest and take a vacation in city number 5, but it turned out to be such a dead end. The brainstem in his skull was completely damaged, and the life in his eyes gradually disappeared, and he slowly fell towards the ground. A battleship commander who was not weak in his own strength actually died without any performance under the attack of a giant mosquito. Click, click, click. The entire battleship is still being rapidly destroyed by Jia Yan. As the most powerful attacking weapon, Jia Yan's pair of front legs and brainwave power showed off his power crazily. The frequency of 4-foot thrusts reached the terrifying level of dozens or even hundreds of times per second. Everything in front of it was completely destroyed by this giant mosquito that looked like it was going crazy. The brainwave power was emitted to the limit, detecting all life forms in the ship. One by one, Osta soldiers who resembled Earthlings were killed by its brainwave power. It sounds like a long time, but in reality it was only 5 or 6 seconds after Jia Yan attacked the battleship. With a roar that could shake the heaven and the earth, there was a loud noise in the middle of the battleship, and fire shot into the sky. This 200-meter class huge space battleship. Just like that there was a tilt. With loud explosions of destruction, the ship was finally completely enveloped in flames. The unbelievably powerful giant mosquito completely destroyed the power system of the entire battleship, and most of the explosions caused were from the internal systems of the battleship. Caused by self-destruction. The battleship finally lost its balance in the sky. Boom 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 boom. A sky-high gravel suddenly echoed at the junction of the desert and the forest. The sound was so loud that it looked like a meteorite falling in the desert. Yellow sand sprayed into the sky to a height of 1,000 meters, a large forest was destroyed by the shock wave, and countless sand and gravel debris flew into the air, creating a doomsday-like scene for a radius of 7 or 8 kilometers. In the center of the pit, the space battleship was still in the process of collapse and destruction, and explosions continued to sound. The 200-meter-long behemoth was beyond recognition at this moment. Flames spurted out from the surface of the battleship, and the same was true of the outer surface with strong defense. As you can imagine, the interior is definitely more completely destroyed. The battleship's hull had been deformed and twisted due to the explosion. Several huge gaps appeared in the originally slender hull, one of which completely exploded the top of the battleship, giving it a trumpet shape. This battleship is completely destroyed. Not long. A faint blue thing slowly rose into the sky amid the flames and flew out along the trumpet-shaped gap on the top of the battleship. The whole body is the red color of flames, but Jia Yan's body is the color of cold blue, and even the bottom of his heart seems to be extremely cold. He won. Defeated an Asta space battleship. This is just the first ship. He believes that in the future, more battleships will be destroyed in his own hands, and even the more powerful 500-meter class and the 2-kilometer large aircraft carrier class space battleships will also be destroyed by him. But that's all for the future, for him now. Finally there was a hint of fatigue. The big Mosquito flew away from the wreckage of the battleship that was constantly exploding and spraying flames. He believed that there were no survivors inside, and even if there were, it would be impossible to escape from the completely destroyed body of the battleship. Buzz buzz. The azure color on the surface of Jia Yan's body was fading rapidly. He found that maintaining his azure defense was extremely consuming of physical strength and energy. He, who originally boasted of his strong endurance, actually felt a little exhausted at this time. Fortunately, he felt that it was unlikely that a strong opponent would appear next, otherwise, there would be some trouble. He gained a lot in this battle. First of all, his body was now flying, and he had a glimpse of the natural feeling around him. At this moment, his flying became more natural, or should be said, more scientific. Next is the experience of fighting space battleships, and he also has a more comprehensive understanding of the starry sky level body. This battle with the invading Asta warships once again greatly improved Jia Yan's combat effectiveness. This improvement is not in terms of energy, but in terms of experience and combat skills. If another starry sky level being knew about his speed of improvement, he would definitely be so shocked and jealous that he could hardly speak. After all, in this starry sky, for a starry sky level person to become stronger, it requires continuous fighting. Through fighting again and again, you can understand the essence of fighting, and you may become as powerful as a big mosquito. In fact, this kind of powerful speed is more of a helplessness for Jia Yan. In the past, he was used to quickly mastering the strength of his mutated body, otherwise he would die, so he had to make himself stronger in 1 or 2 battles. Moreover, the battle after the first mutation has always been the most powerful moment, and subsequent battles may not have such a large increase. Boom 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 boom. The battle over there may be about to come to an end. The Asta battleship will win. Attack, attack. In the sky above Earth City, the aircraft of the Sheriff's Alliance have once again suppressed the strong men of Earth City. Although Earth City has an advantageous location, and the artillery fire combined with the attacks of the powerful caused great damage to the Sheriff's army, after all, the opponent was riding advanced combat weapons. After those aircraft developed their full performance, their strength for the weapons of Earth City. It's a crushing level. How can a small force equivalent to a national army and a small force equivalent to a small place be compared? In other words, it is unbelievable that Earth City can sustain for such a long time in such a situation. The Commander-in-Chief of the Sheriff's Alliance. Loudly cheering for his colleagues, deep in his heart. it is impossible to think that the Asta battleship will lose. This Asta warship was a support battleship that the Asta authorities reluctantly agreed to send after their hard request. Although in order not to cause a sensitive reaction from the biochemical empire, they only dispatched a 200-meter class battleship, but a space battleship is a space battleship. It is not difficult for a 200-meter class space battleship to wipe out their large group of peace officer aircraft. So he didn't think of the powerful assassin. Will it really be able to defeat the Asta warship, even if the other party is really a powerful starry sky-level existence? The people in the Earth City below were already in danger. De Funy, who seemed inconspicuous but was extremely efficient in shooting down the sheriff's aircraft, was finally noticed. A mesh that could really be used against the strong. The object is ejected. De Funy's whole body was wrapped in it, and the power of her double gun suddenly lost most of it. At this time, De Funy clenched her silver teeth and frowned slightly. She pulled hard on the big net that wrapped herself with one hand, but this big net was extremely terrifying and could not be damaged no matter how hard she tried. There was even more than thousands of volts of electric current on it, sparking sparks constantly, making her whole body paralyzed. If you keep going like this, you will lose. The woman watched as aircraft continued to fly across the sky above her at low altitudes, bombing and destroying some of the powerful artillery fire sites belonging to the Earth City on the ground, and then walked away. She was filled with worry. Most of the Earth City's strong men were damaged at this moment, and the remains of some strong men were like a hill on the ground. Even such a powerful individual was in front of the sheriff's aircraft. They are just some more troublesome beings. They have countless means to kill them. Just like De Funy now, if she hadn't been entangled in a big net and used her small body to escape to the ground. In the ruins, they might all be killed now. How is the battle going over there? Can the giant Mosquito win? If he doesn't show up again, we will be doomed here. Daphne looked at the sky in the distance. She had felt a series of sudden noises not far away before. It was obvious that the battle between the giant Mosquito and the space battleship was extremely terrifying. Just when Daphne was looking at the distance of the sky with her wonderful eyes, her expression suddenly changed. That's a big mosquito. He actually turned blue. I remember seeing him like this before, but it's not important. Now he flies back by himself, which means he really won. In De Funy's sight, there was indeed a huge blue flying monster. It seemed slow, but it was still very fast, flying slowly towards the Earth City. A charming smile appeared on Daphne's lips. She knew that in the face of the space battleship, the Mosquito won. And his victory also represents Earth City's victory. Next, it's time for Earth City to counterattack. Everyone, listen. The assassin is back. He defeated the Asta space battleship and returned. The next thing we have to do is to counterattack. Kill all these peace officers. She suddenly sent out her message in the communication channel, a heroic declaration. Following De Funy's words, the eyes of the Earth City strongmen who were originally sluggish all turned. Afterwards, they discovered the giant blue mosquito monster high in the sky, approaching Earth City. It's Lord Assassin. He's really back. Why did the master change his color? But it doesn't matter. We only need to know that the master defeated the space battleship. The assassin master can even defeat the space battleship. This is beyond my imagination. Lord Daphne is right. Next is the time for us to fight back. When the assassin returns, these majestic sheriffs will definitely start to flee. There are only less than 20 strong men in Earth City left, but they survived in such a terrifying battle environment. They are definitely extremely powerful men. Some of them even retain their strength at all. If they exert their strength, with all his strength, his ranking in the previous Golden Desert could never be that low. At this moment, they saw large mosquitoes in the sky that seemed to be coming slowly. Everyone looked excited. The Starry Sky class that can defeat a space battleship is definitely a nearly medium powerful existence even among powerful Starry Sky class life forms. At least he's not weak. Being able to follow such strong men is also an honor for these strong men who survived the hard battle. That's right, counterattack. We want to show the adults our strength. At least at this moment, these Earth City powerhouses are here. Their cohesion and centripetal force towards Earth City have reached another level. These police aircraft. They actually destroyed Earth City like this. They are looking for death. As for the big mosquito coming from the sky, at this moment, he also carefully saw the appearance of the scorched earth everywhere in Earth City, and his heart suddenly became cold. He doesn't have much identification with Earth City. This doesn't mean that big mosquito doesn't really care about this place. Especially the equipment and supplies are all related to his return to his hometown. At this moment, Earth City has been destroyed into ruins. Those I don't know what happened to the supplies. How could Jia Yan not be angry? And the anger of a Starry Sky level monster. That is extremely scary. The big mosquito quickly returned from blue to dark, and now it seemed like a dazzling creature coming to the battlefield. He circled around, spotted a peace officer's aircraft located on the outside of the battle circle, and swooped down hard. The big mosquito has experienced a new feeling of flying. Some of its flying movements are in line with the sense of nature, when it pounces at this moment. It actually easily broke through the speed equivalent to 50 times the speed of sound on Earth. Bang! The aircraft was unable to react at all. The giant mosquito's huge and arrogant figure had already smashed it into pieces. The azure defense is still outside the body. The strength of Jia Yan's body at this moment and the sharpness of his front feet are not comparable to those before. How is it possible? This monster actually appeared again. What about the Asta battleship? Did they lose? Impossible. When the police officers in the aircraft saw the big mosquito coming again, they all looked ugly and showed extremely frightened expressions. Most of these peace officers are Asta people. They know very well how powerful an Asta warship is, but such a powerful 200-meter class battleship did not kill the flying monster in front of it. Could it be that the battleship was really the loser? They didn't want to believe it, but apart from this reason, there was no other reason to think about at this moment. The big mosquito is here again. At this time, he is a Starry Sky level who no longer hides his strength and has even become stronger than before. Before, he was fighting extremely fiercely with the aircraft in front of him, and the opponent had no idea of escape. But now Jia Yan no longer hides his strength, because he has already reached the peak, and the first battle after the mutation will also be the power in his body has been fully channeled, so there is no need to worry about the power becoming weaker. In general, he is now able to use his original strength without any scruples to deal with the sheriffs in front of him. Die. Buzz. The brainwave power was activated, and an extremely powerful vibrating sound rippled in the air, and the speed of the sheriff's aircraft suddenly dropped. At this time, these aircraft were facing large mosquitoes with full power and even more powerful strength. How could they resist? Each aircraft was affected by the power of brain waves, and its flight speed was reduced. Although the life forms inside had some defensive measures and would not suffer huge injuries, all aircraft within a radius of 3 kilometers from the mosquito were completely. The strength has been lowered by a level and has become an easier target. Kill. When Jia Yan was not hasty and wasted no time in killing the aircraft one by one, the strong men in Earth City also rushed to kill them with great excitement. They found that the opponents in front of them were completely suppressed by the unfathomable brainwave power of the assassin. Down, it became slow. Although this power also had a slight impact on them, because it was not aimed at them, the contrast between strength and weakness was reversed in an instant. A strong man from Earth City was beating up the drowned dog and chasing the aircraft to attack. The artillery fire of Earth City Underground also seized the opportunity and continuously launched a saturated artillery bombardment at the sheriff's aircraft in the sky. Boom 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 boom. The situation changed instantly. There were more explosions in the sky above Earth City, but what was different from before was that it was no longer the strong men of Earth City that fell to the ground, but the sheriff's aircraft. These coalition forces, which came from the entire 6 cities of the Gray-Yellow Star and had assembled almost half of the city's defense force, actually suffered a huge collapse at this moment. No way, this Starry Sky class is too scary. Run away. Finally, when the battle damage reached more than half, almost all the sheriff's aircraft collapsed. One by one, they announced their tactical retreat in the communicator, and then used their highest speed to disperse in all directions, using all means to escape. Chase. Don't let them escape. A strong man from Earth City was also going crazy at this moment, chasing the aircraft that had no intention of fighting. As the last aircraft in sight was stabbed by a big Mosquito's forefoot, it exploded and disintegrated. The sound of battle that kept echoing in the sky suddenly became silent. Bayou found that many book friends are still struggling with the subscription fee of this book and the number of updates. I would like to explain again that this book is updated once a day, but one chapter is 5,000 plus words, which is equivalent to 2 updates for others. As for the cost, it is all they are unified. Their 3,000 word chapter is naturally not as expensive as my 5,000 word chapter. I hope everyone can understand. If the subscription improves after a while, Bayou will consider restoring 6,000 word updates every day. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 462. All the sheriff's aircraft fled, destroyed, and there was no longer a fighting group in the sky above Earth City. Only the ruins on the ground were telling the horror of the previous war. Jia Yan and Daphne stood together. I didn't expect you to become so strong, Daphne said with a faint smile. Jia Yan was startled, then smiled, and shook his head. Well, our things will speed up next. I don't even know what the reaction of those interstellar civilizations will be tomorrow. There are still at least 3 days, because the civilizations will need time to digest this news. And on this planet, if any civilization wants to take action, it will affect the whole body. Even the Asta civilization, it's impossible to attack us without consulting other civilizations. That's all our time, so we still have at least 3 days. Jia Yan has always admired Daphne's analytical ability, and she came to Grey Star at the same time as him, but she knows far more things than he does. This is what Jia Yan admires most in his heart. Hearing Daphne's analysis, he felt a little relieved, and then he continued to ask less nervously, 3 days is still too short. It's impossible for your gravitational wave instrument to be completed, right? So do you have any plans? He decided to trust Daphne more. After all, although Daphne had a certain mind, a series of things showed that she really wanted to cooperate with him, Jia Yan. And the so-called wisdom has also made a lot of mistakes. At least Jia Yan understands that after mastering the force that the opponent cannot resist, this woman will not be able to resist him even if she has any intentions. That's right. Some of those materials have been damaged, and now Earth City's personnel can no longer be as efficient as before. Therefore, it is impossible to complete the instrument within 3 days, not to mention 3 days, even 10 days. It can be good. Daphne analyzed. My suggestion is that we cannot give up on the forces and people here in Earth City, but it will be more dangerous to stay here, even on the Gray-Yellow Star. So, the decision I mentioned before is truly made. It's time to take action. What do you think? Daphne looked at Jia Yan with her wonderful eyes. An expression of eagerness to try. Previous decision? Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, then sighed softly in his heart. He knew what decision Delphi was talking about. This is what Daphne has been working towards. Now that the other party has made this so-called decision at this moment, it is already very clear what she wants to do next. But Jia Yan understood that the difficulty and danger of this matter made him unable to believe that Dai Funi, who had always been conservative, would actually want to try this matter. But now, if they don't do that, they will face the revenge of the Asta people in this golden desert with nowhere to escape. There is no hope of victory. After much deliberation, Jia Yan knew that there was no other way but to make what Dai Funi called a decision. Okay, then let's do what you said. Since your decision is destined to make us more aggressive, so it is necessary to ensure combat effectiveness for this, then I must rest and restore energy. Here. I'll send you some nutrient solution. After Jia Yan reluctantly agreed to Dai Funi's decision, he flew towards the interior of Huangzhou. His previous residence, the meeting hall, had been burned to the ground by the bombardment of the sheriff's aircraft. Now he could only find a quiet place to rest. After all, the previous battle still wasted a lot of energy on him. After Jia Yan takes off, the woman with a graceful figure stood looking at Jia Yan's soaring body for a long time. After that, her face slowly became serious. The two seemed relaxed as they talked, but they both knew that they, and Earth City, were in an extremely dangerous situation at this time. The arrival of the sheriff was beyond their expectations. What I didn't even expect was the Asta people actually sent a battleship to help in the battle. Now, although the battleship was destroyed by the Mosquito with its powerful strength, it has made Earth City visible to all the forces. What happens next, except for the violent storm, there is no other possibility. There is too little time. I originally thought we could carry out our operations more covertly, but I didn't expect that we would be facing a direct confrontation with the Asta civilization so quickly. She sighed, and then dragged her away. After the battle, she looked extremely the tired body walked towards the temporary meeting place in Earth City. Jia Yan can be the boss and leave with an excuse to restore energy, but she, Dai Funi, can't do that. After all, she is the one who wants to keep Earth City. Jia Yan has never cared much about Earth City. Earth City, a new and prosperous force that originally came in, has now become extremely dilapidated, and the flames are burning continuously. Those gray-yellow ancient trees can burn for a long time at this moment. Although they defeated the coalition forces of the sheriff and the Asta people, but Earth City still looks extremely miserable. Everyone in Earth City finally came back to their senses from the joy of victory. Looking at the raging fire, the ruined walls, and even the corpses whose appearance could not be distinguished, all the living creatures were a little lost at this moment. Although wars in the Golden Desert often involve battles involving more than 10,000 people, have you ever encountered such a terrifying scene? A small Earth city actually caused the attack of the Sheriff's coalition forces and the Asta warships. This incident is simply the most terrifying incident in the history of Jin Mo. Every corpse tells the story of the tragedy of this war. Even if Earth City wins, it will definitely be a tragic victory. At this moment, Earth City's population is dying and fleeing. The remaining people are at most less than 1/5 of the original number. There are not even 10,000 people left. However, most of these 10,000 people are powerful beings who have experienced the flames of war. Even if they are not strong, they at least have the experience of going through the flames of war. If they face such a tragedy again in the future, they will not be too panicked. Members of Earth City, those who stay here are those who have become determined to stay in this force. They may have their own reasons for staying here, but these people did not escape during the battle, and many even gave their own strength and contributed to the defense of Earth City, so they can be believed at this time. Daphne did not hesitate to trust her and quickly assigned some important things. Among those strong men, some of the aircraft chasing the sheriff have not returned. Perhaps some of them may never come back. After all, not everyone is a fool. Even though Earth City won. But the big Mosquito destroyed an Asta warship, and now it was at odds with the Asta civilization. It was not as simple as fighting against the sheriff, because the Asta civilization was a member of the warring forces of the Grey and Yellow Star, and their strength was not comparable to that of the Sheriff. Those who left, just left, and those who stayed, no matter what the reason was, Daphne became friendly to them. Because she understood that most of the previous Earth cities still relied on force and threats to control the people under their control. But now these personnel have experienced a war and may have a greater sense of belonging to Earth City. Most of the Earth City members began to spontaneously put out the fire and rescue some injured people. At this moment, their sense of belonging to Earth City is much stronger. Kaga, let's go back and take a look. Maybe Uncle Luca and the others are not dead yet. Two young children. At this moment, we support each other and keep walking among the ruins. Surrounding them were huge corpses of life forms. Faced with this scene, they were still groping around, as if they wanted to imitate those adults and find some injured people to treat. Lulu seemed to be concerned about the life forms in the bar. With a lot of nostalgia, he pulled Kaguya and moved towards the bar in his memory. Kaguya seemed to want to say something, but he refrained from saying it because he also knew that Lulu knew the result. But now I want to get over it, but I just don't want to believe the facts. Maybe this little friend won't give up unless she confirms it with her own eyes. Kaguya did not refuse, so he climbed through several ruins with Lulu, and then saw the building where the bar used to be. The place had long been attacked by the sheriff's red light and turned into a sea of fire. There may have been another attack here later, so not even much of the remains of the building were left there, only some collapsed walls and a half-buried bar. When Lulu came here, tears began to appear in her bright big eyes. When she saw the charred octopus body of Boss Luca, the tears finally turned into teardrops and rolled down. She gently and continuously moved her steps and discovered the corpses of the deceased, including their former orphan companions and the bar guests. Each of these corpses died in extremely miserable ways. Not only were they shattered to pieces by the explosion, they were also blown to pieces. The fire was burning, and it was impossible to recognize the appearance at this moment. Lulu, let's go. Adults will come to bury them in the future. Kaguya seemed not to want to see Lulu looking so sad, so he couldn't help but pull the little bunny-eared girl. No. They just said they wanted to hear me sing. I didn't sing just now, and now I have to make up for it for them, Lulu stubbornly refused. She found the bar table where she had always avoided, and now only half of the table was left. Lulu climbed onto the table. The table legs made an unbearable sound, but it shook and did not collapse. The little bunny-eared girl sat at the bar, looking at the miserable corpses in front of her, tears flashing down her face, and then looking at the starry sky above her head that was still extremely bright even after such a tragic battle. She sang softly in mourning. Songs of the Dead. This voice is euphemistic and pleasant, very suitable for the current situation, and there is a sadness in the singer's song, which corresponds to the scenery at this time, and is extremely suitable for the situation. Her beautiful singing voice and the sadness in the song were conveyed far away. Perhaps Lulu really had a very good singing talent, so at this time, a name was not far away searching for the injured life forms. They were all attracted by the singing voice. A figure appeared from the darkness around the ruins. Then there were long sighs again, and they left quietly. What Lulu and I didn't know was that among these people, a beautiful woman who looked like an Asta person also had a trace of sadness on her face and left the place afterwards. But the beautiful singing voice of this bunny-eared girl named Lulu was already remembered in her heart. What? Our Asta battleship was destroyed by the Earth City. In the quiet space, a man with a majestic expression made a surprised and uncertain voice. This man is tall and tall, standing 2 meters away from the earth. Although compared with those huge life forms, he may still be a little short. But his strength can definitely surpass almost all life forms in the starry sky. This person is Odawa, the Asta gunslinger, one of the 5 powerful men in Asta. Odawa looked at the report materials in front of him and analyzed the information one by one. Then he looked at the man in military uniform standing beside him. After seeing the other person's affirmative look, he turned back solemnly and looked carefully again. Observe the information in front of you. The Lord Assassin of Earth City is actually a starry sky level creature. How did this creature appear? It is impossible for a being that has not experienced combat to advance to the starry sky level. Go and investigate. Is there any previous information about this monster within the star field? For an existence that has reached the starry sky level, no matter how cautious you are, Odawa finally no longer regards Earth City as a small local indigenous force. After all, having a starry sky level is theoretically an existence equal to his powerful level. Of course, Odawa would not take an ordinary starry sky level life seriously. After all, he is one of the 5 powerful people in the Asta civilization. His strength was gained through battle after battle, against battleship after battleship, and against strong men one after another. It is impossible for him to take ordinary starry sky level experts seriously. In addition, I ordered you to send 4 200-meter level warships close to the atmosphere of the gray-yellow star to see the reactions from several aspects. If their reactions are not strong, then go with the trend and flatten and destroy the Earth City. By then, the assassin will let me solve it. But if several other civilizations react violently, then we will slow down and send a few diplomatic envoys to visit their interstellar civilization forces. I believe they are not too concerned about this sudden starry sky level. Only those who have a good impression of it should do so. After Odawa issued a series of orders, his eyes were shining brightly, looking at the scene in the video of the battle between the big Mosquito and his space battleship. This kind of defense level reaches or even exceeds the moderately powerful starry sky level, but I seem to have heard something similar somewhere. Where exactly is it? Odawa felt strange, but after thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of something similar to the big Mosquito Azure. Defense wherever heard the impression. This was the reaction of the Asta people. Because they had a powerful leader, even though they had been destroyed by the Earth City and had an extremely precious space battleship, their reaction still seemed orderly and even more restrained. They only tried to test a few parties. Reaction. Then act according to the situation. On the other side of the biochemical empire, a white life form was simply shocked and speechless when he heard the news. How is it possible? Not long ago, this assassin was tied with me and was even suppressed by me, but now he is a starry sky level? Impossible. Next to him, the horned monster, which was as big as a hill, was also looking at the holographic image in front of him, with excitement in his eyes. Hearing his daughter's words, he burst into earth-shaking laughter, shocking his subordinates all staggering, and then said, "Daughter, you don't know, he is that kind of existence, are all terrifying big shots in our biochemical empire. Their biggest advantage is that their growth rate is far faster than most people imagine. When you fought with him before, you didn't mention that he might have been injured at that time, even if he was not injured at that time. It is not surprising that he suddenly reached the starry sky level at this time, after all, he is evolved beast." The white life form supplemented her words with a glib tone, and then she looked at her slightly swollen belly. She didn't know what she thought of, as if she was obsessed. But this guy thinks he has reached the starry sky level, and actually wants to challenge the Asta people? He is simply looking for death. He has no idea that the starry sky level of Odawa is as big as 2 worlds apart from his starry sky level. I have to think of a way to prevent my son-in-law from facing that guy Odawa like this. The horned monster suddenly said this. Who is your son-in-law? Dad, don't talk nonsense." Upon hearing this, the white life form suddenly came back from its daze and retorted with a sweet voice. "Ha ha. Satsumakan, don't you watch those media TV series about Asta's human love and love every day and talk about these things? And you actually got pregnant with his child through genetic testing in one go? You have to know, this chance is basically negligible. I said he is my destined son-in-law. Am I still wrong? The Minotaur laughed loudly, still shaking the world, as if it was very happy. Dad, the white life form was shy, with 3 long horns on its head, and crackling electric lightning because of its emotional instability. The biochemical Empire military camp was so noisy, but the Zerg military camp of another superforce not far away seemed extremely quiet. Even some of the patrolling soldiers going back and forth, that is, those who looked like they were magnified many times. The insect-like monster, which had no other color at all at the moment, was patrolling the area around the military camp, as if it were a machine, without any emotion. But there is only one who exists, and he is different from other Zerg soldiers. I changed my computer, and the input method actually went wrong. Fortunately, I caught up with the update.